Discussion on verses 1 to 37 of 37. The full meaning of the opening verse is known solely to Allah, the Exalted. Chapter 45 Al-Jathiyah, verse 1.
Ha-Mim.
Nonetheless, this indicates that the Holy Quran is composed of the very Arabic letters and expressions familiar to the Arabs who first received it. Accordingly, they possessed no valid grounds to dispute its divine origin, for they fully understood its language and personally observed its unmatched eloquence. Despite being eminent authorities in Arabic and taking great pride in their linguistic expertise, they were incapable of producing even a single composition equal to the Holy Quran in depth of meaning, clarity of expression, or perfection of guidance. This inability to rival it, despite every possible linguistic advantage, remains a permanent and irrefutable proof of its divine origin. Chapter 2 Al-Baqarah, verse 23.
And if you are in some doubt concerning what we sent down upon our special devotee, then bring one chapter like it, and call upon all your helpers beside Allah if you are truthful.
This may help explain why the Holy Quran is mentioned immediately in the following verses. Its deliberate placement underscores that the very scripture revealed to those individuals, formed from the same familiar letters and language they themselves employed, stands as the clearest proof of its divine origin and the most compelling response to their continuing doubts. Chapter 45 Al-Jathiyah, verse 2.
The revelation of the book is from Allah, the Exalted in might, the Wise.
Even if an individual were to attain the utmost mastery of Arabic eloquence, such expression would still fall far short of the immense wisdom contained within the Holy Quran, especially in its deep insight into human psychology and its refinement of moral character. No human composition can achieve its flawless integration of clarity and profundity. Its meanings challenge the most learned minds while remaining accessible to any sincere seeker seeking guidance in daily life. The Holy Quran stands alone in its capacity to present profound and abstract truths in a manner that is both practical and universally relevant. It addresses the deepest dimensions of human nature and sets forth a timeless framework applicable to every person, society, and age. Each verse affirms its divine origin through exceptional precision and an eloquence that surpasses all human expression. Unlike other works, which are susceptible to inconsistency and contradiction, the Holy Quran is completely preserved from error by Allah, the Exalted. It delivers an accurate and comprehensive account of earlier nations, despite having been revealed through the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, who had no formal education in history or previous scriptures. Furthermore, the Holy Quran serves as an all-encompassing guide for the upliftment of humanity, promoting all that safeguards life and prohibiting all that leads to harm. It establishes justice and balance within both the individual and the broader society, free from the distortions and excesses often found in myth or poetry. Every verse is intentional and life-enriching. With continual recitation, new depths of meaning and wisdom consistently unfold. By anchoring its assurances and warnings in reason, and by transforming virtues such as patience into lived practice, the Holy Quran presents divine guidance in a form that is clear, comprehensible, and attainable for all. The Holy Quran invites humanity to recognize the true purpose of life, to devote oneself to Allah, the Exalted, with sincerity by directing every blessing bestowed upon them toward seeking His pleasure. Through such conscious devotion, individuals attain inner serenity and authentic success in both this life and the hereafter, reaching a state of harmony in which the mind, body, and soul operate in balance. For those in search of enduring peace and fulfillment, the Holy Quran clarifies the straight path with exceptional clarity and depth. Its guidance corresponds perfectly with human nature and remains timeless, relevant to every society and generation. When it is sincerely accepted and actively lived, the Holy Quran provides comprehensive guidance for all aspects of human life, addressing emotional, financial, and physical challenges while reconciling personal interests with the well-being of the wider community. History itself testifies to the transformative influence of these teachings, as societies that truly upheld its message rose to notable levels of justice, wisdom, and collective stability. Most remarkable of all is the divine preservation of its text. Throughout the passage of centuries, not a single letter of the Holy Quran has been altered, for Allah the Exalted has pledged to protect it for all time, Chapter 15 Al-Hijr, verse 9.
Indeed, it is we who sent down the message, i.e., the Quran, and indeed we will be its guardian.
No other work in human history possesses such a unique and unmatched status. Allah, the Exalted, addresses the most fundamental and persistent challenges confronting every civilization, providing solutions that are both decisive and enduring. By addressing these root causes, the Holy Quran eliminates or resolves the countless secondary difficulties that arise from them. This clearly demonstrates the completeness and perfection of its guidance, as it contains every foundational principle required for the well-being, stability, and moral advancement of both individuals and society as a whole. Through sincere commitment to its teachings, humanity achieves true success in this world and secures everlasting salvation in the hereafter. Chapter 16 and now, verse 89.
And we have sent down to you the book as clarification for all things.
This stands as the greatest and most lasting miracle bestowed by Allah, the Exalted, upon His final messenger, the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. The deep guidance and far-reaching benefits of the Holy Quran are available only to those who approach it with sincerity, humility, and an earnest desire for truth. Those who allow personal preferences and worldly impulses to shape their engagement, embracing only what suits their inclinations while dismissing or resisting what challenges them, steadily remove themselves from its reformative and elevating influence. Such selective obedience leads inevitably to confusion, loss, and profound regret in both this life and the hereafter. Chapter 17 Al-Isra, verse 82.
And we send down of the Quran that which is healing and mercy for the believers, but it does not increase the wrongdoers except in loss.
Chapter 45 Al-Jathiyah, verse 1.
Ha-Mim.
This chapter opens with isolated letters, a characteristic appearing in several sections of the Holy Quran, the true meaning of which is known only to Allah the Exalted. These openings serve as a powerful reminder of the inherent limitations of human understanding, and highlight the necessity of humility when engaging with divine revelation. Through the presence of these mysterious letters, the Holy Quran affirms its nature as a direct expression of divine guidance rather than a product of human composition, existing beyond the full reach of mortal intellect. A heart becomes capable of receiving its deeper wisdom only when a person recognizes the boundaries of personal comprehension. Conversely, those who approach the Holy Quran with intellectual pride, depending solely on their own reasoning and dismissing what cannot be immediately understood, often fall into doubt and confusion. When confronted with truths that lie beyond human rational capacity, such individuals may resort to rejection, strained reinterpretation, or the distortion of meanings. These reactions do not point to any shortcoming within the Holy Quran. Rather, they reveal a spiritual blindness rooted in ego, which prevents the heart from recognizing the truth. The relationship between a person and the Holy Quran may be compared to that of a devoted student and a wise teacher. A humble learner benefits even from challenging or initially unclear lessons, trusting that persistence will ultimately lead to understanding. In contrast, an arrogant learner filters knowledge through preconceived assumptions, thereby cutting themselves off from genuine enlightenment. True comprehension of the Holy Quran is reserved for those who approach it with reverence and openness. Such humility nurtures inner peace, and aligns both mind and body with the wisdom of Allah, the Exalted, enabling a proper understanding of the role each aspect of life occupies within the divine order. Ultimately, sincere submission to the Holy Quran is indispensable for achieving spiritual balance, lasting tranquility, and success in both this world and the hereafter. Chapter 45 Al-Jathiyah, verse 1.
Ha-Mim.
Since letters form the foundation of human expression and the transmission of knowledge, the opening of this chapter highlights the vital importance of knowledge in human life. It serves as a reminder that a sound intellect is essential not only for fulfilling worldly responsibilities, but also for understanding spiritual truths. Every person is entrusted with the pursuit and application of beneficial knowledge, a duty clearly emphasized in the teachings of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Ignorance inevitably leads to error and deviation, for those who lack understanding cannot distinguish truth from falsehood, nor protect themselves from moral decline. Yet the mere acquisition of information is insufficient. Knowledge only attains its true value when it is put into practice. Unapplied knowledge is like a map that is never used. It may indicate the path to success, but it cannot transport anyone to their destination unless the journey is undertaken. Similarly, an individual must integrate learned principles into daily life to achieve genuine guidance and spiritual growth. Beneficial knowledge must therefore be both acquired and embodied. Its purpose is to refine character, purify intentions, and guide behavior. When understanding is translated into action, it becomes a source of illumination that benefits both the individual and the wider community. Through the sincere pursuit and practical application of such wisdom, a person attains true prosperity in this life and everlasting peace in the hereafter, by the will of Allah the Exalted. Chapter 62 Al-Jumu'ah, verse 5.
And then did not take it on, did not act upon knowledge, is like that of a donkey who carries volumes of books.
The following verse conveys the most elevated and all-encompassing guidance ever granted to humanity, illustrating that every other form of knowledge reaches its fullest expression and refinement within the divine wisdom of the Holy Quran. This celestial guidance provides a unified framework for all aspects of human life, seamlessly integrating worldly responsibilities with eternal spiritual goals. By living in accordance with these principles, an individual attains balance and steadfastness across both mind and body, ensuring that every relationship, duty, and personal aim is properly aligned with its intended significance. Through such a harmonious and purposeful life, people experience true flourishing in this world, and are granted the certainty of everlasting success in the hereafter, by the mercy and grace of Allah the Exalted. Chapter 45 Al-Jathiyah, verse 2.
The revelation of the book is from Allah, the Exalted in might, the wise.
To derive true benefit from the Holy Quran, engagement must follow the methodology and practices of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. This engagement goes far beyond precise and consistent recitation. It requires a sincere and inward commitment to understanding its meanings and embodying its guidance in every aspect of daily life. The Holy Quran is not merely a text to be recited, it is a complete and practical framework for living. Its transformative power is realized only when its teachings are put into action. Like a map that is useless unless a traveler follows its path, the Holy Quran provides guidance only to those who actively implement its instructions. It is also not intended as a tool for material gain. Using its verses solely to seek wealth, offspring, or social status undermines its true purpose, as worldly provisions are governed by their own divinely established systems. Instead, the Holy Quran teaches humanity how to utilize every blessing granted by Allah the Exalted in a balanced and ethical manner. Those who sincerely follow its path cultivate harmony between mind and body, directing their lives with wisdom and restraint. In doing so, they prepare for accountability on the Day of Judgment, attaining peace and equilibrium in both this life and the hereafter. In this way, the Holy Quran represents the highest source of knowledge and the definitive guide to righteous living, transforming hearts and societies through deliberate and active devotion. No matter how advanced a civilization becomes, or how far it progresses in fields such as psychology, biology, or sociology, humans cannot develop a code of conduct that perfectly aligns with human nature and addresses every circumstance. Humanity continues to uncover even the most basic aspects of its own biology, such as the intricate functions of the brain, and therefore lacks the comprehensive insight required to establish a flawless moral system, capable of ensuring universal justice and inner peace. This limitation is inherent to human knowledge, which is necessarily partial, evolving, and constrained by finite perspectives. Only Allah, the Exalted, possesses the infinite knowledge necessary to establish a code of conduct perfectly aligned with human nature, and universally applicable across all times and contexts. As the creator of all existence, his wisdom encompasses the past, present, and future in their entirety. He alone is qualified to define the standard that separates what is beneficial from what is harmful, and distinguishes the path of peace from the path of ruin and disorder. Chapter 45 Al-Jathiyah, verse 2.
The revelation of the book is from Allah, the Exalted in might, the wise.
History itself confirms this truth. Whenever individuals and communities sincerely embraced the divine way of life, they consistently formed societies characterized by tranquility, justice, and strong social cohesion. This demonstrates that divine guidance is not merely an abstract ideal or theoretical philosophy, but a practical and transformative framework, perfectly attuned to human well-being and collective prosperity. People are therefore called to accept this guidance as an act of mercy from Allah, the Exalted, rather than as a burden or constraint. Although divine instruction may at times conflict with personal desires or prevailing social norms, it exists solely for the benefit of those who follow it. The challenge lies not in the guidance itself, but in the resistance of unrestrained desires. The correct approach to divine instruction is comparable to that of a prudent patient who trusts a skilled physician. Even when the prescribed treatment is uncomfortable or demands strict discipline, the patient follows it, understanding that recovery and long-term health depend upon compliance. They recognize the treatment as an act of mercy, not cruelty. Likewise, those who steadfastly adhere to the teachings of Islam, despite challenges and personal sacrifices, ultimately attain clarity of thought, emotional stability, and profound inner peace. Such a life exemplifies the true purpose of divine guidance, not to burden humanity, but to heal, stabilize, and lead it toward enduring success in both this world and the hereafter. After presenting the signs within the Holy Quran that affirm the oneness of Allah, the Exalted, and the necessity of obeying Him at all times, Allah, the Exalted, draws attention to the signs observable in the creation itself, which also point unmistakably to His singular authority. Chapter 45 Al-Jathiyah, verse 3.
Indeed, within the heavens and earth are signs for the believers.
When one carefully examines the creation of the heavens and the earth, along with the countless interdependent and perfectly balanced systems within them, it becomes evident that only one being could have created and sustains the entire universe. For instance, the sun's precise distance from the earth is not arbitrary. A slight increase or decrease in this distance would render the earth uninhabitable. Similarly, the earth has been fashioned with an atmosphere of remarkable balance and purity, providing an environment in which life can flourish. The intricate precision of these systems clearly signals the deliberate design of a creator, Allah, the Exalted, whose wisdom encompasses all. Consider the analogy of constructing even a simple building. For a building to stand securely, pillars, beams, and foundations must be carefully designed and strategically positioned to maintain structural integrity. Building without planning leads to instability and eventual collapse. If careful thought is essential for a simple structure, how could one reasonably claim that the infinitely complex systems of the heavens and the earth were assembled by accident? Were the universe and the earth products of chance, their organization would be chaotic and unsafe. Yet, the precision, harmony, and safety inherent in creation clearly point to the deliberate planning and infinite knowledge of the Creator, Allah the Exalted. Chapter 13 Ar-Ra'd verse 2.
It is Allah who erected the heavens without pillars that you can see.
The earth itself exhibits remarkable balance. Its land is designed to support human activity, from cultivating crops to constructing settlements, while also accommodating natural landscapes of varying altitudes. Higher altitude regions, which are challenging to inhabit due to thin air and difficult access, exist in limited measure, ensuring the majority of habitable land is optimally suited for human life. Remote and inaccessible areas protect valuable resources, while the majority of the Earth's surface remains usable. Furthermore, natural resources essential for survival, water, fertile soil, minerals, are positioned to be accessible, with the most crucial resources easiest to obtain. Such intentional distribution could never be accidental, and it reflects the existence of a conscious, knowledgeable creator. Even within the human body, countless signs testify to the perfect wisdom, knowledge, and power of Allah, the Exalted. Chapter 45 Al-Jathiyah, verse 4.
And in the creation of yourselves and what He disperses of moving creatures are signs for people who are certain.
Those who sincerely reflect on the human body with an open and unbiased mind will recognize an undeniable truth. The precise composition and intricate design of the human body could not have emerged by chance. Every organ, bone, sense, and system operates in harmony, performing its function within a network of interdependent processes that sustain life. The circulatory system, for example, delivers essential nutrients and oxygen to every part of the body, while the respiratory system ensures the removal of carbon dioxide. The nervous system coordinates movement, perception, and thought, and the immune system defends against countless threats that would otherwise end life. Each of these systems is perfectly calibrated, reflecting an extraordinary level of foresight and design. This understanding extends equally to the animal kingdom. Every species has been created with precise anatomical structures and physiological adaptations that enable it to thrive in its specific environment. Camels, for instance, are designed to endure extreme heat and survive long periods without water, making them perfectly suited for desert life. Goats are structured so that impurities are efficiently separated from their milk, ensuring a safe and nourishing supply. Each living being exhibits the same hallmarks at deliberate creation, with organs, limbs, and bodily functions aligned to achieve survival and purpose. It is clear that such precision, coordination, and interdependence could never arise from a blind, imperfect process such as evolution alone. Evolution, by its very nature, is a process of random mutation and selection, which cannot account for the flawless balance of systems observed in living beings. If even a simple mechanical object requires a designer to function properly, how could the human body, with its staggering complexity of physical, mental, and emotional systems, exist and operate without a creator and sustainer? Moreover, life depends on the continuous and precise maintenance of these systems. Any disruption in the balance of the body, whether in the cardiovascular, respiratory, nervous, or immune systems, can result in illness, disability, or death. This illustrates that the human body is not merely a self-sustaining structure, but one that requires constant oversight and regulation. Such continuous and perfect control could only be provided by an all-knowing and omnipotent Creator, Allah the Exalted, who not only designed humans but also sustains their life at every moment. The evidence within the human body, therefore, mirrors the broader signs found throughout creation. Intricate systems, precise balance, and interdependent functions all point unequivocally to a singular, deliberate, and infinitely wise Creator. The human body, in its complexity and perfection, serves as a profound reminder of the power, knowledge, and meticulous design of Allah the Exalted. The sun's path guarantees that the earth receives an optimal balance of light and darkness. Chapter 45, Jathiyah, verse 5.
And, in the alternation of night and day.
The length of days and nights, with their seasonal variations, enables humans to make the most effective use of time. If days were extended significantly, fatigue and exhaustion would impair human productivity. Conversely, if nights were prolonged, there would be insufficient time to work, earn a livelihood, or pursue education and other essential activities. Similarly, shorter nights would deprive people of adequate rest, affecting their health and mental well-being. Even small alterations in the duration of days and nights would disrupt crop cycles, threatening food security for humans and animals alike. This precise orchestration of celestial cycles demonstrates the oneness of Allah, the Exalted, as multiple deities with differing wills would inevitably create chaos instead of order. Chapter 21, Al-Anbiya, verse 22.
Had there been within them, i.e., the heavens and earth gods besides Allah, they both would have been ruined.
The moon, reflecting sunlight, serves as a crucial guide for people at night, particularly in navigating deserts and oceans, a practice that remains essential for transporting goods to this day. Its phases govern the tides, which in turn maintain the ecological balance of oceans and coastal regions. Any disruption in these natural cycles would have catastrophic consequences for the environment. Together, the sun and moon also allow humans to measure time accurately, which is vital for organizing daily life, agriculture, and societal functioning. The perfect placement and function of these celestial bodies attest to the wisdom of a deliberate Creator. The water cycle presents another profound example of divine precision. Chapter 45, Al-Jathiyah, verse 5.
And in what Allah sends down from the sky of provision.
Water evaporates from the seas, rises, condenses into rain, and falls on the mountains, where natural processes neutralize acidity and ensure it is usable by humans, animals, and vegetation. Any disruption in this delicate system would result in widespread ecological disaster. Similarly, the salt content in oceans prevents decay from contaminating water and disrupting marine life. The oceans are structured to allow both abundant marine life and the navigation of large ships, a balance that could not occur by chance. Rainfall is carefully measured. Too little causes drought and famine, while excessive rainfall triggers destructive floods. Chapter 23 Al-Mu'minin, verse 18.
And we have sent down rain from the sky in a measured amount and settled it in the earth. And indeed, we are able to take it away.
The earth has been designed with extraordinary precision, enabling it to produce an immense variety of provisions for all living beings. Its soil contains the exact balance of minerals needed for growth. Its climate cycles, sunlight, wind, rain, and seasons, operate in perfect harmony to sustain life. Rivers carve paths through the land, carrying nutrients to distant regions. Mountains stabilize the Earth's crust and influence weather patterns. Every element of the natural world works together in a finely tuned system that no human mind could have engineered. Among the most striking signs within this system is the revival of what appears lifeless. A seed, dry and dormant, lies buried in the soil. To the human eye, it resembles a tiny fragment of dust, motionless, silent, and seemingly dead. Yet when rain descends and the soil softens, something miraculous occurs. The seed absorbs water, swells, splits open, and sends forth a delicate shoot that pushes through the earth. From this fragile beginning emerges a plant that may one day become a towering tree, a field of crops, or a source of nourishment for countless creatures. This transformation is entirely beyond human control. No scientist, no matter how advanced, can breathe life into a dead seed. They may analyze its structure, describe its components, or replicate its outer form, but they cannot create the spark that turns lifeless matter into a living organism. This process is a direct manifestation of divine power, a sign that points unmistakably to the Creator who governs all things. Chapter 45 Al-Jathiyah, verse 5.
And in what Allah sends down from the sky of provision, and gives life thereby to the earth after its lifelessness.
This revival is not a rare or isolated event. It is a continuous cycle woven into the fabric of creation. Every year, barren fields become lush with vegetation. Every spring, landscapes that appeared dead burst into color and life. Every harvest season, the earth yields fruits, grains, and crops that sustain humanity and countless other creatures. These cycles repeat with such consistency that people often overlook their significance. Yet each cycle is a reminder of divine power, mercy, and wisdom. Furthermore, this sign invites reflection on human dependence. People rely on the earth for food, water, shelter, and countless other blessings, yet they have no control over the processes that sustain these provisions. They cannot command the rain, regulate the seasons, or revive the soil. Their survival depends entirely on the continuous mercy of Allah, the Exalted. Recognizing this fosters humility, gratitude, and awareness of one's true place in the universe. The revival of the earth also highlights the precision and balance of divine design. If the soil was slightly different, if the climate were unstable, if the water cycle were disrupted, life would collapse. The fact that these systems operate with such reliability is itself a sign of divine governance. It demonstrates that creation is not random or chaotic, but purposeful and guided. The revival of the earth after its lifelessness also serves as a powerful analogy for human resurrection. Just as Allah brings life to barren land, He has the power to resurrect human beings after their death. The earth itself becomes a classroom, in which the lesson of resurrection is taught repeatedly. Every sprouting seed, every blooming flower, every revived landscape silently proclaims the same truth: the one who brings life from lifelessness can surely bring the dead back to life. Denying the possibility of human resurrection on the Day of Judgment is a remarkable claim, particularly when one observes the created world, which is replete with countless signs of life emerging from apparent death. Allah, the Exalted, has embedded patterns of revival and renewal throughout creation, displaying them repeatedly across days, seasons, and generations. These signs are so numerous, consistent, and profound that only those who deliberately refuse to reflect remain unconvinced of this reality. The cycle of the seasons alone provides a powerful testimony. In winter, trees stand bare, their branches stripped of leaves and color, appearing lifeless and dormant. Yet with the arrival of spring, these same trees awaken. Leaves unfurl, flowers bloom, and entire landscapes that seemed dead burst forth with vibrant life. This transformation repeats year after year, silently proclaiming the inevitability of resurrection and the power of Allah, the Exalted, to bring life from what appears lifeless. Even within the human body, resurrection is an ongoing, continuous process. Every moment, skin cells, blood cells, and countless other tissues die and are replaced by new ones. The body is thus in a perpetual state of renewal and regeneration. Yet few pause to reflect on the profound implications of this constant revival. This intricate system of death and renewal within living organisms mirrors the greater reality that human resurrection on the Day of Judgment is not only possible, but consistent with the patterns observable throughout creation. The natural world offers further vivid examples. A caterpillar, after entering a cocoon in a state that resembles death, emerges as a butterfly, entirely transformed, as though granted a completely new life. Certain desert plants remain dry and seemingly lifeless for years, yet when rain touches them, they bloom with extraordinary speed and vitality. Forests devastated by fire gradually regenerate as new shoots emerge from charred soil, returning entire ecosystems to life. Even animals that hibernate enter deep states of inactivity, their bodily functions slowing dramatically in a near-death state, only to awaken renewed when the season changes. The oceans, too, reflect this pattern. Coral reefs that appear dead after bleaching events can, under favorable conditions, regenerate and flourish once again. On a cosmic scale, the heavens demonstrate the same principle. Stars collapse and scatter their elements across space, and from this material, new stars and planets are formed, life arising from apparent destruction. Even the daily rhythm of sleep provides a reflection of resurrection. Sleep mimics a minor death, during which the sleeper's senses are suspended and conscious awareness is withdrawn. Yet Allah, the Exalted, restores life to the sleeper by returning the soul to the body, enabling continued existence for those destined to live. Each of these patterns, from the smallest cells to the vast cosmos, serves as a clear and repeated sign that resurrection is not only possible but an inherent law within the design of creation, pointing directly to the power, wisdom, and knowledge of Allah, the Exalted. Chapter 39 Az-Zumar, verse 42.
Allah takes the souls at the time of their death, and those that do not die He takes during their sleep. Then He keeps those for which He has decreed death, and releases the others for a specified term. Indeed, in that are signs for a people who give thought.
Winds serve an essential and multifaceted role within the natural world, demonstrating the perfect wisdom and control of Allah, the Exalted. They are crucial for wind pollination, enabling the reproduction of plants, crops, and trees, which in turn sustains life for humans and animals alike. Chapter 45 Al-Jathiyah, verse 5.
And in His directing of the winds are signs for a people who reason.
In addition to their ecological function, winds historically enabled and continue to facilitate sailing, which remains one of the most important methods for transporting goods and connecting civilizations across the globe. Beyond transportation, winds play a vital role in directing clouds and rainfall, ensuring that precipitation reaches areas where it is needed, maintaining the delicate balance of ecosystems and supporting agricultural productivity. The absence of winds would disrupt weather patterns, impair the distribution of water, and negatively impact food production, while excessively strong winds could lead to destruction, flooding, and ecological imbalance. The precise calibration of the wind system, operating in perfect harmony with the rest of the Earth's natural mechanisms, offers a profound testament to the singular authority, power, and wisdom of Allah, the Exalted, who orchestrates every detail of creation. This balance not only sustains life but also invites reflection, urging humankind to recognize the signs of the Creator, submit to His guidance, and place trust in His knowledge and design. Chapter 45 Al-Jathiyah, verse 6.
Those are the verses of Allah which we recite to you with purpose. Then in what statement after Allah and His verses will they believe?
No matter how far human civilization progresses, and regardless of how much knowledge it accumulates in fields such as psychology, neuroscience, sociology, or medicine, it will always remain impossible for people to design a code of conduct that perfectly aligns with human nature and addresses every situation an individual or society may face. Human understanding is inherently limited. Even today, with all the advancements in science, humanity is still uncovering basic truths about itself, such as the functions at different regions of the brain, the complexities of emotion, and the subtle interactions between mind and body. If people have not yet mastered a complete understanding of their own nature, how could they ever produce a flawless system that guarantees justice, tranquility, and stability for all? Only Allah, the Exalted, can provide such a system. As the creator of every atom in existence, His knowledge is absolute, encompassing the past, present, and future in their entirety. He knows the inner workings of the human soul, the hidden thoughts of the mind, and the needs of the body. He understands the consequences of every action, the ripple effects of every decision, and the long-term outcomes of every path a person may take. Because His knowledge is perfect, His guidance is perfect. He alone is qualified to give humanity a code of conduct that clearly distinguishes benefit from harm, truth from falsehood, and the path of peace from the path of misery. History provides undeniable evidence of this. Whenever divine guidance was sincerely implemented, whether in the life of a single believer or across an entire community, it produced harmony, fairness, dignity, and inner calm. Societies built upon revelation became models of justice and compassion. Individuals who lived by divine instruction found clarity, purpose, and emotional balance. Conversely, whenever people abandoned divine guidance and relied solely on human ideas, corruption, inequality, and moral confusion inevitably followed, regardless of their technological or intellectual achievements. For this reason, a person must embrace the divine code of conduct revealed by Allah, the Exalted, recognizing that it is designed for their own well-being, even when certain teachings challenge their personal desires. They should behave like a sensible patient who trusts the expertise of a skilled doctor. Even when the prescribed treatment is bitter or the dietary restrictions are difficult, the patient accepts them because they know the physician seeks their healing. In the same way, a believer accepts and follows the teachings of Allah, the Exalted, knowing that His guidance leads to true health of the mind, body, and soul. In reality, any person who abandons the divine code of conduct revealed by Allah, the Exalted, and instead follows systems created by human beings, does so primarily to satisfy their worldly desires. Human-made systems, by their very nature, reflect the inclinations, ambitions, and self-interest of those who devise them. They are shaped by personal desires, societal pressures, or the pursuit of power and status, and unlike the divine law, they lack the perfect wisdom, justice, and mercy inherent in Allah's guidance. Those who hold wealth, authority, or influence are often the most deeply invested in maintaining these man-made systems. They recognize that submitting to the truth of Islam would impose limits on the pursuit of their unchecked desires, curb their exploitation of others, restrict indulgence in excess, and prevent misuse of their authority. Out of fear of losing privileges and social dominance, they reject divine guidance for themselves and often encourage others to follow their lead, prioritizing worldly status over eternal well-being. This pattern of opposition is not a new phenomenon. Historically, the first individuals to resist the holy prophets, peace be upon them, were often elites of society, those whose influence and power would be constrained by the moral and ethical framework brought by divine guidance. Their opposition was rarely rooted in ignorance or confusion regarding the truth. The signs of Allah, the Exalted, were evident before them. Instead, their resistance originated in arrogance, pride, and a refusal to discipline their desires in accordance with the Creator's commands. Therefore, rejecting divine guidance is rarely a matter of rational debate about truth or falsehood. More often, it reflects the state of one's heart, a deliberate refusal to submit to Allah, the Exalted, and restrain one's own inclinations. Chapter 45 Al-Jathiyah, verses 7-8.
Woe to every sinful liar, who hears the verses of Allah recited to him, then persists arrogantly as if he had not heard them. So give him tidings of a painful punishment.
These verses also carry a broader warning. It highlights the danger of failing to properly engage with Islamic knowledge, even in the absence of arrogance. Correct engagement requires not only listening attentively to the teachings of Islam, but also connecting that knowledge to one's own life experiences, evaluating how to implement it effectively, and sincerely striving to act upon it. Without taking these steps, Simply hearing or reading Islamic knowledge will not produce meaningful change in behavior. This explains why, despite unprecedented access to Islamic knowledge in the modern era, many people still fail to transform their actions or cultivate obedience to Allah, the Exalted. Allah, the Exalted, warns of a particularly misguided behavior in which a person is aware of the teachings of Islam yet chooses to ignore them, treating them with mockery or derision, even while professing belief in Allah, the Exalted. Chapter 45, Jathiyah, verse 9.
And when he knows anything of our verses, he takes them in ridicule.
Those who adopt this attitude inevitably continue to misuse the blessings Allah, the Exalted, has granted them. In the worldly life, such behavior prevents them from attaining a balanced mental and physical state, and leads them to misplace everything and everyone within their lives. Their families, friends, careers, wealth, and other blessings, instead of being sources of comfort and support, become sources of stress and frustration. In many cases, they mistakenly attribute these difficulties to others, blaming their spouse, children, colleagues, or friends, rather than recognizing that the root cause lies in their own disobedience. In attempting to eliminate these sources of stress, they may isolate themselves from the very people who could provide guidance, support, or companionship, ultimately worsening their mental and emotional state. Persistent disregard for the guidance of Allah, the Exalted, often manifests in extreme consequences: depression, addiction, and in some cases, suicidal tendencies. Even when individuals appear to enjoy worldly luxuries, such as wealth, fame, or social recognition, their lives remain internally chaotic and unfulfilling. This pattern is evident when observing those who misuse the blessings they have been granted, despite outward appearances of success. Moreover, because their attitude prevents them from preparing for their accountability on Judgment Day, their punishment in the hereafter will be far more severe. Neither worldly achievements nor fleeting pleasures will offer any relief, nor will they be granted additional opportunities for repentance or reform. The tools or influences they followed in their disobedience, such as social media, fashion trends, or cultural norms, will provide no protection or benefit. Chapter 45, Jathiyah, verses 9 to 10.
Those will have a humiliating punishment. Before them is hell, and what they had earned will not avail them at all, nor what they had taken besides Allah as allies. And they will have a great punishment.
Although Islamic teachings constitute divine guidance, offering the path to peace of mind in both this world and the next, through achieving a balanced mental and physical state, and properly placing everything and everyone within one's life, those who fail to implement its teachings in practice will not truly benefit from its guidance. Chapter 45, Jathiyah, verse 11.
This Quran is guidance.
The guidance of the Holy Quran manifests in multiple interdependent aspects. The first is to recite it correctly and consistently, honoring its linguistic and spiritual integrity. The second is to strive to understand its teachings through a reliable source and qualified teacher, ensuring comprehension and avoiding misinterpretation. The final, and perhaps most critical, aspect is to act upon its guidance with sincerity and the genuine aim of pleasing Allah, the Exalted. A true person of faith prioritizes acting according to the Holy Quran over following their personal desires that contradict its teachings. Modeling one's character on the principles and moral framework of the Holy Quran is the clearest indicator of genuine sincerity toward the Book of Allah, the Exalted. This practice is exemplified by the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, and is confirmed in a hadith found in Sunan Abu Dawood, number 1342. Sincerity in approaching the Holy Quran requires a wholehearted intention to understand and implement all of its guidance, even when doing so contradicts one's personal inclinations or worldly desires. Those who selectively follow its commands, prohibitions, and advice according to their whims demonstrate insincerity. By cherry-picking what to obey, they deny themselves the full benefits of divine guidance. Chapter 17, Al-Isra, verse 82.
And we send down of the Quran that which is healing and mercy for the believers, but it does not increase the wrongdoers except in loss.
It is also essential to recognize that while the Holy Quran can address worldly difficulties and provide comfort, its primary purpose is not merely to serve as a tool for solving temporal problems. Treating the Holy Quran as a means to alleviate personal hardships alone, reciting it only when in need, then neglecting it afterward, is analogous to purchasing a fully equipped car that has no engine. It appears complete but lacks the essential mechanism for proper function. A person who uses the Holy Quran in this way demonstrates insincerity and fails to appreciate its ultimate purpose, guiding one safely towards success in the hereafter. True believers engage with the Holy Quran comprehensively, seeking both the spiritual benefits for this life and, most importantly, the eternal guidance for the life to come. As warned in verse 11, those who claim faith in Allah, the Exalted, yet fail to uphold the various aspects of the Holy Quran, neglecting its recitation, understanding, and practical implementation, and instead persist in misusing the blessings they have been granted, place themselves at grave risk. Chapter 45 Jathiyah, verse 11.
And those who have disbelieved in the verses of their Lord will have a painful punishment of foul nature.
It is essential to recognize that faith is not a static possession, but a delicate flame requiring continuous attention and nurturing. Just as a fire slowly dies when it is deprived of fuel, faith diminishes and may eventually be extinguished if it is not actively sustained through consistent acts of obedience and reflection. Neglecting the practical application of Islamic teachings deprives the soul of spiritual nourishment, gradually weakening its light until guidance becomes obscured. The loss of faith represents the most profound form of deprivation, for it removes the very guiding light that provides clarity, stability, and purpose in life. Without this illumination, a person becomes vulnerable to misplacing priorities, misusing blessings, and falling into spiritual and moral confusion, ultimately jeopardizing both their worldly balance and their preparedness for the Day of Judgment. After emphasizing the importance of sincerely implementing divine teachings, Allah, the Exalted, once again draws attention to signs within creation that demonstrate His oneness and authority, underscoring that He alone must be obeyed in all matters. Chapter 45 Jathiyah, verse 12.
It is Allah who subjected to you the sea, so that ships may sail upon it by His command.
This verse highlights the remarkable balance, wisdom, and foresight embedded in the creation of the seas and oceans. As discussed earlier, the composition of water has been perfectly designed to support two crucial and interdependent functions simultaneously. It sustains marine life, ensuring that countless species, from the smallest plankton to the largest whales, can thrive within a stable and nourishing environment, and it provides a medium strong and navigable enough for ships, ranging from small boats to massive cargo vessels, to traverse the waters safely. Any slight alteration in this delicate balance, whether in salinity, density, or chemical composition, would disrupt one or both of these essential functions, making it impossible for marine life to survive or for human transportation and trade to proceed efficiently. This perfect equilibrium is not limited to water's composition alone. It extends to currents, tides, and waves, all of which work together to sustain ecosystems while allowing for human navigation and commerce. Even in the present day, despite the development of modern technology and alternative transport methods, sea travel remains the most reliable and widely used means for transporting goods across continents, highlighting the ongoing practical significance of this divine design. Chapter 45 Jathiyah, verse 12.
And that you may seek of His bounty.
Such meticulous balance serves as a clear and undeniable sign of the oneness, wisdom, and absolute authority of Allah, the Exalted, who governs every aspect of creation, from the smallest detail in the water to the vastness of the oceans, ensuring that all His creation functions in harmony to meet its intended purpose. Reflection on this system should inspire humility, awe, and recognition of the comprehensive knowledge and power of the Creator, who has placed everything in the universe in perfect proportion and balance. Chapter 45 Jathiyah, verse 12.
And that you may seek of His bounty, and perhaps you will be grateful.
A person who takes care of certain aspects of another's provision, such as providing housing or food, is rightly deserving of gratitude. In the same way, since Allah, the Exalted, has granted every blessing within the universe to humanity, it is only fair and just that people show Him gratitude. Gratitude begins with the intention. It requires performing actions solely to seek the pleasure of Allah, the Exalted. Actions carried out for other reasons, whether to gain personal benefit, recognition, or praise, will not be rewarded by Allah, the Exalted. This principle is emphasized in a hadith recorded in Jami at Tirmidhi, number 3154, highlighting that the sincerity of one's intention determines whether a deed is accepted before Allah. A clear indication of a righteous intention is that the individual does not expect or hope for appreciation, reward, or acknowledgement from others. Gratitude is not limited to intention alone. Gratitude with the tongue involves speaking words of praise, encouragement, and goodness, or maintaining silence when it is necessary to avoid wrongdoing. Gratitude expressed through action involves using the blessings one has been granted in ways that are pleasing to Allah, the Exalted, in accordance with the guidance found in the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Acting in this manner leads to an increase in blessings and ultimately results in peace of mind in both worlds, achieved through a balanced mental and physical state, and through placing everything and everyone correctly within one's life. Chapter 14 Ibrahim, verse 7.
If you are grateful, I will surely increase you in favor.
Furthermore, the concept of ownership reinforces the obligation of gratitude. When a person owns an object, it is proper and normal for others to use that object only according to the wishes of its owner. Similarly, Allah the Exalted is the creator, owner, and sustainer of all things in the universe, including human beings themselves. Therefore, it is entirely fitting that humans obey him, as he alone determines what should occur in the universe and what should not. In addition, the notion that worldly blessings are a loan underscores the importance of using them responsibly. Just as someone who lends an item expects it to be used according to their guidance, every blessing a person possesses, whether wealth, health, knowledge, or opportunities, has been granted by Allah the Exalted as a trust, not a permanent gift. The proper repayment of this trust is to use these blessings in ways pleasing to Allah the Exalted. In contrast, the blessings of paradise are a gift freely granted by Allah to reward His servants without restriction. Chapter 7 Al-Araf, verse 43.
And they will be called, "This is paradise which you have been made to inherit for what you used to do."
This verse emphasizes that the gifts of paradise are distinct from worldly blessings, which are a temporary trust that must be handled responsibly. Recognizing this difference encourages gratitude, strengthens obedience, and inspires a person to use every blessing in a manner aligned with the guidance of Allah the Exalted, so that their worldly life becomes a foundation for success in the hereafter. As discussed earlier, every element within the heavens and the earth has been created with remarkable precision, balance, and purpose for the benefit of humanity. Nothing in creation is random or without function. The sun, the moon, the stars, the winds, the oceans, the mountains, and the fertile earth all operate in perfect harmony, each fulfilling its role in sustaining life. Chapter 45 Al-Jathiyah, verse 13.
And he has subjected to you whatever is in the heavens and whatever is on the earth, all from him.
This universal harmony exists because the entire creation submits completely to the command of Allah, the Exalted. The stars do not deviate from their orbits, the seasons do not rebel against their cycles, and the laws of nature do not resist His decree. Everything in the universe functions with flawless obedience, and it is this obedience that produces the balance and stability we observe. This harmony, however, is not reflected within human society. Unlike the rest of creation, many people do not submit to the commands of Allah, the Exalted. They misuse the blessings they have been granted, follow their desires, and deviate from the path that leads to balance and tranquility. As a result, they experience inner turmoil, confusion, and imbalance, conditions that are absent in the natural world precisely because the natural world remains obedient. Therefore, if a person desires to achieve the same harmony and balance they witness throughout the universe, they must follow the example of creation by sincerely obeying Allah, the Exalted, at all times. This obedience is expressed through correctly using the blessings they have been granted, in the manner outlined by Islamic teachings. When a person aligns their life with divine guidance, they attain a harmonious mental and physical state. Their priorities fall into their proper places, their relationships become balanced, and their inner world becomes calm and ordered. At the same time, they prepare themselves adequately for their accountability on the Day of Judgment. Such conduct leads to tranquility in both worlds. It brings peace in this life through balance and clarity, and it brings success in the next through sincere obedience. Chapter 45 Jathiyah, verse 13.
Indeed, in that are signs for a people who give thought.
These signs are not hidden, they are woven into every aspect of creation. Only those who reflect with sincerity will recognize them, and allow them to guide their lives toward true peace. But as obeying Allah, the Exalted, often requires restraining or contradicting the natural inclinations and worldly desires of people, many will persist in rejecting, ignoring, or neglecting Islamic teachings. Allah the Exalted does not impose guidance on anyone, for if He did, the test of life in this world would be nullified. Life, with all its trials, opportunities, and choices, is designed as a test of free will, through which individuals demonstrate their sincerity, patience, and commitment to His commands. Therefore, it is the duty of those entrusted with conveying the message of Islam, whether through speech, conduct, or personal example, to fulfill their role with sincerity, wisdom, and compassion, while leaving the choice to believe entirely in the hands of Allah, the Exalted. Chapter 45 Jathiyah, verse 14.
Say, to those who have believed that they should forgive those who expect not the days of Allah.
And chapter 88 Al-Ghashiyah, verses 21 to 22.
So remind you are only a reminder. You are not over them a controller.
These verses convey profound and timeless guidance for all who call others to righteousness. They clarify that the responsibility of a caller to truth is not to coerce belief, intimidate, or impose authority over others, but rather to deliver the message faithfully and with integrity. A sincere caller must act with patience, clarity, and compassion, embodying the teachings of Islam in their character, and then trust that Allah the Exalted will guide hearts as He wills. This approach not only preserves the dignity and agency of those being invited to guidance, but also shields the caller from grief, frustration, or feelings of inadequacy when their efforts do not yield immediate or visible results. True success, therefore, is not measured by the number of followers, public recognition, or worldly outcomes, but by the faithfulness, sincerity, and integrity with which the message is delivered. Those who genuinely seek guidance will respond when they encounter it, and those who remain arrogant, heedless, or stubbornly attached to their desires harm only themselves. This principle also underscores that Allah, the Exalted, never places a burden upon a soul beyond its capacity. Every trial, difficulty, or obstacle serves as an opportunity for growth in patience, perseverance, discipline, and faith. Peace, both in this world and the hereafter, is attained through submission to Allah, the Exalted, which often requires sacrifice, self-restraint, and mastery over one's lower desires. True contentment is rarely found in wealth, status, or worldly recognition. Instead, it lies in the heart that submits to the wisdom, justice, and mercy of Allah, the Exalted. This reality is evident when observing those who possess abundant worldly advantages, yet remain restless, unsatisfied, or discontent, highlighting the limits of worldly success in achieving inner peace. For those engaged in calling to truth, the focus must remain unwavering. Embody the teachings of Islam with integrity, share the message with compassion and clarity, and leave the outcome to Allah, the Exalted. By embracing this perspective, the caller transforms anxiety into serene trust, impatience into perseverance, and hope into reliance on divine mercy and justice. In so doing, they become a living example of the faith they convey, demonstrating that guidance is ultimately a gift from Allah, the Exalted, and that human responsibility is confined to delivering the message faithfully while entrusting accountability and results entirely to Him. Chapter 45 Jathiyah, verse 14.
So that He may recompense a people for what they used to earn.
In general, when a person chooses a path that differs from the path adopted by their peers, it often exposes the insecurity others feel about their own life choices, particularly when those choices prioritize personal desires over obedience to Allah, the Exalted. The presence of someone who remains steadfast upon Islamic teachings can act as an unspoken reminder of what others have neglected or compromised. As a result, feelings of guilt, inadequacy, or discomfort may arise, which are frequently redirected as criticism or hostility toward the one who remains firm upon faith. Sadly, this reaction is often witnessed even among close family members, who may view steadfastness in Islam as a silent judgment upon their own compromises, even though no such judgment was intended. In addition to familial pressure, wider societal forces exert considerable influence on those who strive to uphold Islamic values. Social media platforms, fashion industries, entertainment, and prevailing cultural norms actively promote lifestyles centered upon self-indulgence, fame, and material success. In this environment, Islam is often portrayed as an obstacle to personal freedom, wealth accumulation, and social acceptance. Industries and movements that Islam critiques, due to their promotion of excess, exploitation, or moral decay, frequently oppose the implementation of Islamic principles and discourage Muslims from practicing their faith openly. This resistance significantly contributes to the widespread anti-Islamic sentiment visible across many platforms, particularly social media, where Islam is misrepresented and attacked in subtle and overt ways. Furthermore, those who strive to live according to Islamic teachings, which call for moderation, self-restraint, and the responsible use of blessings, are often met with hostility from individuals who pursue their desires without limits. Islam condemns such unrestrained indulgence, likening it to behavior driven purely by instinct rather than reason and morality. Those who live in excess often feel threatened by the discipline Islam promotes, as it exposes the emptiness and consequences of a desire-driven lifestyle. Consequently, they may attempt to dissuade others from accepting Islam or discourage Muslims from practicing it, enticing them instead toward a life governed by unchecked impulses. A common tactic employed in this effort is the selective criticism of specific Islamic teachings, such as the dress code for women, which is frequently portrayed as oppressive. However, thoughtful individuals can easily recognize the superficial and inconsistent nature of such arguments. These same critics do not subject other strict dress codes, such as those required in law enforcement, the military, healthcare, education, or professional business environments, to similar scrutiny. This selective outrage exposes that the issue is not dress codes themselves, but rather Islam's emphasis on modesty, discipline, and moral accountability. Ultimately, it is the core principles of Islam and the self-discipline demonstrated by its adherents that provoke these attacks, driving critics to undermine Islam in any manner they can. In every situation, therefore, a person must remain firmly committed to the sincere obedience of Allah, the Exalted, understanding that such devotion ultimately serves their own well-being. Even if the protection and benefits of obedience are not immediately visible, loyalty to Allah, the Exalted, shields a person from harmful influences and misguided pressures. Through obedience, a person learns to use the blessings they have been granted correctly, which enables them to attain a balanced mental and physical state. This balance allows them to place everything and everyone in their life in its proper position, while also preparing adequately for their accountability on the Day of Judgment. Such a life naturally leads to tranquility in both worlds. As a result, the obedient person is guided through every circumstance, whether ease or hardship, thereby attaining lasting peace of mind and earning immense reward in this life and the hereafter. Chapter 45, Jathiyah, verse 14.
Say, to those who have believed that they should forgive those who expect not the days of Allah.
In contrast, choosing to neglect the commands of Allah, the Exalted, in pursuit of the approval of others inevitably leads to the loss of inner peace. Such behavior encourages the misuse of the blessings Allah, the Exalted, has bestowed, resulting in an unbalanced mental and physical state. Consequently, the individual misplaces priorities, relationships, and responsibilities within their life, leading to stress, anxiety, and persistent hardship, even if they outwardly enjoy certain worldly luxuries. As their negligence also prevents them from preparing for accountability on the Day of Judgment, their punishment in the hereafter will be far more severe. Chapter 45, Jathiyah, verse 14.
So that he may recompense a people for what they used to earn.
To remain firm upon obedience, a person must actively cultivate strong faith. Such faith is essential for remaining steadfast in obeying Allah, the Exalted, during both ease and adversity. Strong faith is developed through understanding and implementing the clear signs and teachings found in the Holy Quran, and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. These sources repeatedly demonstrate that true obedience to Allah, the Exalted, leads to peace, stability, and fulfillment in both worlds. Conversely, those who lack Islamic knowledge often possess fragile faith, making them more vulnerable to abandoning obedience when divine guidance conflicts with personal desires. This ignorance prevents them from recognizing that surrendering one's desires in favor of Allah's commands is not a loss, but rather the very means of attaining peace of mind and success in both worlds. Therefore, it is essential for individuals to strengthen their faith through seeking Islamic knowledge and striving to act upon it consistently. By doing so, they ensure continuous obedience to Allah, the Exalted, correct use of their blessings, and a life marked by balance, clarity, and true contentment. Allah, the Exalted, then firmly establishes the reality that whether a person chooses obedience or disobedience, the outcome returns solely to themselves. Obedience does not increase the dominion of Allah, the Exalted, nor does disobedience diminish it in any way, as He is completely independent of the actions, choices, and attitudes of the creation. Every decision a person makes carries consequences that shape their own inner state and ultimate end. Chapter 45, Jathiyah, verse 15.
Whoever does a good deed, it is for himself, and whoever does evil, it is against the self. Then to your Lord you will be returned.
Understanding this truth is essential, as it protects a person from developing an arrogant mindset, whereby they mistakenly believe that their obedience is a favor they are doing for Allah, the Exalted. Such arrogance corrupts sincerity and weakens true submission, especially when personal desires clash with divine commands. When this false sense of self-importance takes hold, it becomes easier for a person to justify disobedience, gradually leading them away from the straight path. In contrast, those who truly comprehend that faith and obedience exist for their own benefit develop genuine humility before Allah, the Exalted. This humility strengthens their resolve, enabling them to remain devoted to obedience in both hardship and ease. During times of difficulty, such individuals display patience, restraining their hearts, tongues, and actions from objection or resentment. During times of comfort and prosperity, they respond with gratitude, recognizing that every blessing originates from Allah, the Exalted, and is not a result of their own merit alone. Gratitude in intention is demonstrated by acting solely to please Allah, the Exalted, without seeking praise or recognition from others. Gratitude in speech is expressed through kind words, remembrance, or dignified silence when silence is more appropriate. Gratitude in actions is fulfilled by using every blessing, whether physical, financial, or emotional, in accordance with the guidance of the Holy Quran and the teachings of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Likewise, patience is not limited to enduring hardship, but also includes refraining from complaint in speech and behavior, while maintaining consistent obedience to Allah, the Exalted. True patience is rooted in firm trust that Allah, the Exalted, always chooses what is best for His servant, even when the wisdom behind events is not immediately apparent. Chapter 2, Al-Baqarah, verse 216.
But perhaps you hate a thing and it is good for you, and perhaps you love a thing and it is bad for you. And Allah knows while you know not.
As a result, a person who consistently embodies patience and gratitude in all circumstances earns the continuous support, care, and mercy of Allah, the Exalted. This divine assistance manifests as tranquility in both this world and the hereafter, achieved through a balanced mental and physical state, and through correctly placing priorities, relationships, and responsibilities in their rightful positions. Such a person is guided to view every situation, whether pleasant or painful, as an opportunity for growth and closeness to Allah, the Exalted, as highlighted in a hadith found in Sahih Muslim, number 7500. Although the infinite majesty, power, and perfection of Allah, the Exalted, are in no way affected by the obedience or disobedience of the creation, He has nonetheless, throughout history, bestowed divine guidance and abundant worldly blessings upon various nations. This was done as a mercy, and a means of enabling them to attain peace of mind and success in both worlds, on both an individual and societal level. A clear example of this is the special favor granted to the children of Israel, who were provided with guidance, structure, and material provision, so that they could live upright lives grounded in justice and balance. Chapter 45, Jathiyah, verse 16.
And we did certainly give the children of Israel the book and wisdom and prophethood, and we provided them with good things.
The book mentioned in this verse may be understood as the divine law, a comprehensive code of conduct that people are required to live by. This law serves as a framework through which individuals learn how to correctly use the blessings they have been granted, preventing misuse, excess, and injustice. By adhering to this law, people are able to fulfill their duties toward Allah, the Exalted, as well as the rights owed to other people. In doing so, they attain inner peace while also contributing to the establishment of justice, stability, and harmony within society as a whole. Alongside the law, Allah, the Exalted, granted wisdom, which plays an equally essential role. Wisdom teaches people how to correctly understand, apply, and balance their knowledge so that it produces benefit rather than harm. While the law defines what is right and wrong, wisdom guides how those rulings should be applied in real-life situations with fairness, insight, and consideration. Together, law and wisdom enable individuals and societies to function justly, ensuring that actions are guided not only by rules but also by sound judgment and moral clarity. Both law and wisdom are therefore indispensable for establishing a peaceful and just society. Law without wisdom can easily be misused or manipulated, as people may exploit technicalities or loopholes to justify wrongdoing, oppression, or selfish gain. When rules are applied without insight or moral consciousness, they can become tools of injustice rather than instruments of fairness. Conversely, wisdom without divine law leads people to construct personal or collective codes of conduct based on subjective opinions and fluctuating desires. Such man-made systems inevitably fall short, as they are shaped by limited knowledge, incomplete experience, lack of foresight, and personal or societal biases, whether intentional or unintentional. As a result, systems built solely upon human reasoning can never consistently lead to true peace of mind, nor can they reliably establish lasting justice within society. Without divine law, people inevitably fail to uphold the rights of others, as personal interests and shifting values override objective moral standards. Likewise, wisdom detached from divine guidance loses its anchor, becoming vulnerable to distortion and misuse. Therefore, it is only through the combination of divine law and divinely granted wisdom that individuals can attain inner tranquility and societies can achieve genuine peace, justice, and balance. In addition, the word used for wisdom in verse 16 can also be understood as referring to sound judgment. This encompasses the ability to make correct and balanced decisions in every situation a person encounters, whether related to worldly matters or religious obligations. Such judgment enables a person to consistently maintain their obedience to Allah, the Exalted, regardless of circumstances. Through this, they attain peace of mind by achieving a balanced mental and physical state, as well as by placing everything and everyone in their life in their proper and rightful position. Sound judgment therefore acts as a guiding force that protects a person from impulsive decisions, emotional reactions, and misplaced priorities, allowing them to navigate life with clarity, stability, and inner tranquility, while remaining firmly aligned with the obedience of Allah, the Exalted. Chapter 45, Jathiyah, verse 16.
And we did certainly give the children of Israel the book and wisdom and prophethood, and we provided them with good things.
The children of Israel were not granted these favors due to any inherent worldly distinction, such as lineage or ancestry. Rather, this preference carried a profound responsibility. They were entrusted with the duty of representing Allah, the Exalted, correctly to the rest of humanity, and of guiding others through the divine guidance that had been bestowed upon them. Their elevation was therefore not a privilege for self-glorification, but a test of obedience, integrity, and accountability. Chapter 45, Jathiyah, verse 16.
And preferred them over the worlds.
This preference was conditional upon fulfilling that responsibility, with sincerity and consistency. When this duty was neglected, the favor did not serve its intended purpose, and the consequences of misrepresentation followed. In the same manner, this responsibility has now been transferred to the Islamic nation, which is required to fulfill it correctly and learn from the failures of previous nations. Chapter 3, Ali Imran, verse 110.
You are the best nation produced, as an example for mankind. You enjoin what is right and forbid what is wrong and believe in Allah.
This verse makes it clear that superiority is not based on identity or claims, but on action, character, and commitment to divine guidance. The role of this nation is to serve as a living example for humanity, guiding others toward what is right and warning against what is harmful, all while remaining firmly grounded in belief in Allah, the Exalted. This responsibility is not fulfilled through slogans, arguments, or outward labels alone, but through consistent conduct that reflects the teachings of Islam in everyday life. Fulfilling this duty requires leading by example. It can only be achieved when a person actively seeks knowledge of Islamic teachings and strives to live by them sincerely. As these teachings are internalized, they begin to shape a person's character, behavior, and interactions with others. Through this process, noble qualities emphasized in Islam, such as generosity, patience, humility, honesty, and compassion, are cultivated, while destructive traits like greed, envy, arrogance, hypocrisy, and selfishness are consciously abandoned. When these qualities are consistently reflected in a person's speech, behavior, and decision-making, they present a truthful and dignified image of Islam to others. This applies whether one is interacting with people unfamiliar with Islam or with fellow adherents. In this way, Islam is conveyed through lived example rather than mere words, allowing its wisdom, justice, and beauty to become evident through action and character. Such conduct often has a deeper and more lasting impact than verbal instruction alone. Conversely, when a person neglects this responsibility and behaves in a manner that contradicts Islamic teachings, they misrepresent Islam through their actions. This misrepresentation can repel others from accepting Islamic guidance or discourage them from acting upon it sincerely. Such negligence is a serious matter, as misleading others, whether deliberately or through careless conduct, has far-reaching consequences. A person who becomes a cause for others turning away from obedience to Allah, the Exalted, will be held accountable for this harm, both in this world and in the hereafter. Allah, the Exalted, then issues a serious warning to the Muslim nation, cautioning them against failing in their responsibility to represent Him correctly to the wider world. This warning is given through the example of the children of Israel, who were granted unmistakable proofs and clear divine guidance that was sufficient to unite them and, through them, all of humanity upon the truth. However, despite possessing this knowledge, many among their scholars allowed worldly desires to corrupt their intentions. Their pursuit of leadership, authority, status, and social influence led them to deliberately misinterpret their sacred teachings. This conscious distortion of divine guidance resulted in fragmentation, rivalry, and the emergence of factions, each claiming exclusive ownership of the truth. Chapter 45 Al-Jathiyah, verse 17.
And they did not differ except after knowledge had come to them, out of jealous animosity between themselves.
And chapter 30 Ar-Rum, verse 32.
Or of those who have divided their religion and become sects.
This warning is not confined to history, rather, it is timeless and universally applicable. It reveals a fundamental reality. When divine knowledge is exploited for worldly gain, it inevitably produces division, arrogance, and misguidance. Each group becomes consumed by its own interpretation, taking pride in its conclusions while dismissing others. Chapter 30 Ar-Rum, verse 32.
Every faction rejoicing in what it has.
Such people become deluded, convincing themselves and others that they are rightly guided, while in reality they have drifted far from the truth. This arrogance hardens their hearts, blinds them to correction, and traps them deeper in error. For this reason, Muslims must be extremely cautious not to follow the same path by intentionally misinterpreting the teachings of the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. To misuse divine knowledge is to betray the trust and blessings granted by Allah, the Exalted. The misuse of divine guidance has profound consequences. It creates imbalance in a person's mental and physical state, causes priorities to be misplaced, and leads to negligence in preparing for accountability on the Day of Judgment. Even if such individuals enjoy wealth, influence, or comfort in this world, their inner state will be marked by turmoil, anxiety, and unrest, which will eventually manifest as hardship in both worlds. The Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, issued a severe warning regarding this matter in a hadith found in Sunan Ibn Majah, number 253, stating that the one who intentionally misuses Islamic knowledge has been promised hell. Moreover, the one who deliberately misinterprets divine teachings poisons their own faith, often without realizing it. Faith can be likened to a delicate plant that requires care, nourishment, and protection. If it is exposed to toxins or persistent neglect, it withers and dies. Likewise, faith weakens when a person persists in sin, distortion, and insincerity. Continued misinterpretation and disobedience gradually harden the heart until faith is extinguished altogether. This is the greatest loss of all, as such a person may leave this world devoid of faith, condemning themselves to eternal regret. Therefore, it is essential to avoid twisting divine teachings to satisfy worldly desires. The one who does so will experience stress, hardship, and difficulty in this life, followed by punishment in the next. Their misuse of knowledge not only destroys their own path but also misleads others, multiplying their burden of accountability. Chapter 45 Jathiyah, verse 17.
Indeed, your Lord will judge between them on the day of resurrection concerning that over which they used to differ.
In addition, one must guard against placing unconditional loyalty in any single religious teacher, scholar, or sect. Instead, Islamic teachings should be learned from qualified and knowledgeable scholars, while keeping ultimate loyalty firmly with Allah, the Exalted, at all times, even if this requires disagreeing with a teacher or distancing oneself from a group. Loyalty to a group often leads to the distortion of divine teachings, in order to defend that group's positions, mistakes, or reputation. In contrast, loyalty to Allah the Exalted preserves sincerity, correctness, and balance in interpretation. This principle is not a rejection of scholarship or learning, as Islam strongly emphasizes seeking knowledge from those who possess it. Rather, it is a reminder that scholars are human beings who can err, while divine guidance remains perfect and free from error. When a person ties their faith to an individual or group, they risk reshaping divine teachings to protect that allegiance. This inevitably leads to sectarianism, arrogance, and division, outcomes repeatedly condemned in the Holy Quran. When loyalty is directed to Allah, the Exalted, a person approaches the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, with humility, sincerity, and openness to truth. Such loyalty liberates a person from bias. It allows them to accept truth, even when it comes from outside their familiar circle, and it prevents them from rejecting truth simply because it challenges their affiliations. This approach ensures that divine guidance is applied correctly, fostering unity, tranquility of the heart, and righteousness in action. It also safeguards faith from corruption, as faith, like a plant, thrives when nourished by sincerity and humility, but withers when the soil is poisoned by misplaced loyalty. Furthermore, loyalty to Allah, the Exalted, strengthens a person's resilience against worldly temptations. Those whose loyalty lies with groups may compromise principles to maintain approval, status, or belonging. By contrast, the one whose loyalty is solely with Allah, the Exalted, remains steadfast even if they must stand alone. This independence of faith is a clear sign of sincerity, demonstrating devotion to divine truth rather than human validation. The lesson is therefore unmistakable. Division and misinterpretation arise when divine knowledge is exploited for worldly benefit, while unity, tranquility, and salvation arise from loyalty to Allah, the Exalted, and sincere interpretation of His guidance. The wise person nurtures their faith with care, shields it from corruption, and remains firmly loyal to Allah, the Exalted, alone. This loyalty is the essence of piety, the foundation of peace in this world, and the key to success in the hereafter. History further demonstrates that when divine guidance is altered, selectively applied, or manipulated for worldly motives, the consequences are devastating and far-reaching. Communities once united upon truth become fragmented, and internal conflict spreads rapidly. As divisions intensify, ordinary people begin associating religion itself, not the distortions of its leaders, with injustice, turmoil, and harm. Witnessing rivalry, hypocrisy, and self-interest among religious authorities, many assume these individuals genuinely represent divine teachings and become disillusioned as a result. This confusion leads some to doubt the authenticity of religion altogether. Chapter 42 Ash-Shara, verse 14.
And indeed, those who were granted inheritance of the scripture after them are, concerning it, in disquieting doubt.
History contains countless examples of entire communities turning away from religion due to the misconduct and worldly ambitions of those entrusted with sacred knowledge. When such individuals exploit religion for personal gain, they erect barriers between people and the truth. Their behavior obscures the distinction between divine guidance and human manipulation, leaving ordinary people confused and misled. As emphasized throughout, the only safeguard against this danger is for individuals to actively seek authentic divine teachings from trustworthy sources, while anchoring their loyalty firmly with Allah the Exalted rather than with people. Chapter 45 Jathiyah, verse 18.
Then we put you on an ordained way concerning the matter of religion. So follow it and do not follow the inclinations of those who do not know.
When a person grounds their faith in Allah, the Exalted, alone, they gain the clarity to recognize genuine guidance and the strength to act upon it correctly by using their blessings as He has prescribed. This preserves mental and physical balance, enables correct prioritization of responsibilities and relationships, and ensures proper preparation for accountability on the Day of Judgment. Such sincerity produces tranquility in this life and success in the next. By remaining loyal to Allah, the Exalted, and adhering to authentic guidance, a person navigates life with stability, purpose, and a clear understanding of their role within creation, thereby attaining peace of mind in both worlds. One of the major causes of misguidance, whereby a person fails to remain loyal to Allah, the Exalted, in every circumstance, is the habit of blindly following popular opinion within society. This popular opinion is often shaped and controlled by an elite minority, whose primary concern is the fulfillment of their own worldly desires, ambitions, and interests. When people adopt such opinions without reflection, they gradually abandon divine guidance in favor of social acceptance and convenience. Allah, the Exalted, directly warns against this behavior. Chapter 45 Jathiyah, verse 18. Chapter 45 Jathiyah, verse 18.
Then we put you on an ordained way concerning the matter of religion. So follow it and do not follow the inclinations of those who do not know.
This verse makes it clear that divine guidance has been firmly established, and that a person is commanded to follow it consciously and deliberately. It also highlights that those who lack true knowledge are often driven by personal inclinations rather than truth. Following such inclinations leads a person away from obedience to Allah, the Exalted, even if those inclinations are widespread or socially celebrated. A person must therefore avoid blindly following others, as the dominant behavior within society frequently leads to disobedience of Allah, the Exalted. When someone observes the majority of people ignoring or undermining Islamic teachings, they may mistakenly assume that the majority must be correct. This assumption encourages uncritical imitation, where behavior is adopted simply because it is common, not because it is right. In reality, numerical majority has never been a reliable measure of truth. History clearly demonstrates that majority opinion has often been wrong. Many ideas once widely accepted were later exposed as false when knowledge and evidence emerged, such as the long-held belief that the Earth was flat. This illustrates that popularity does not equate to correctness. Acting without thought or reflection, like cattle following the herd, leads to poor decisions in both worldly and spiritual matters. Allah, the Exalted, explicitly warns against this danger. Chapter 6 Al-An'am, verse 116.
And if you obey most of those upon the earth, they will mislead you from the way of Allah. They follow not except assumption, and they are not but guessing.
This verse exposes the weakness of majority opinion when it is based on speculation, assumptions, and conjecture, rather than knowledge and divine guidance. It clarifies that widespread behavior is often driven by desire, ignorance, or imitation, none of which can lead to true guidance or peace of mind. Instead of blind imitation, individuals are required to use the reasoning, intellect, and awareness granted to them by Allah, the Exalted. Each situation should be evaluated carefully through sound knowledge and clear evidence, allowing a person to make informed decisions, even when those decisions oppose prevailing social norms. True obedience often requires the courage to stand apart from the crowd and remain firm upon divine guidance, despite pressure or criticism. For this reason, Islam strongly condemns blind imitation in matters of religion and encourages people to learn, understand, and act upon Islamic teachings with insight and sincerity. Chapter 12 Yusuf, verse 108.
Say, "This is my way, I invite to Allah with insight, I and those who follow me."
Obedience that is grounded in understanding strengthens faith, safeguards loyalty to Allah, the Exalted, and protects a person from being carried away by misguided trends and societal pressures. Such trends promise satisfaction and progress, yet in reality they offer no true benefit, neither in this world nor in the next. Allah, the Exalted, makes it clear that aligning oneself with those who oppose divine guidance will never bring protection or success. Chapter 45 Al-Jathiyah, verse 19.
Indeed, they will never avail you against Allah at all. And indeed, the wrongdoers are allies of one another.
In this verse, Allah, the Exalted, draws attention to another significant cause of misguidance, harmful companionship. Human beings are inherently social by nature, and their beliefs, habits, attitudes, and character are profoundly shaped by the people they associate with. This influence may be immediate and obvious, or it may develop gradually and quietly over time, but its impact is always powerful. Companionship is therefore never a neutral matter. It is a force that shapes a person's mindset, direction, and ultimate outcome. This reality was clearly affirmed by the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, in a hadith found in Sunan Abu Dawood, number 4833, which illustrates the deep and unavoidable effect that companions have on a person's spiritual and moral condition. A person naturally absorbs the qualities of those they keep company with, just as one who spends time in a place of fragrance leaves carrying its scent, while one who frequents a place of smoke departs bearing its effects. In this way, companionship leaves a lasting imprint upon the heart and behavior. Those who surround themselves with righteous and sincere people find their hearts inclined toward humility, sincerity, and obedience to Allah, the Exalted. Such companions serve as reminders of one's responsibilities, encourage the correct and grateful use of blessings, and motivate preparation for accountability on the Day of Judgment. In their presence, a person's intentions are refined, their conduct improves, and their awareness of Allah, the Exalted, is strengthened. This environment nurtures balance, mentally, spiritually, and physically, guiding a person toward a life of purpose, contentment, and inner stability. In contrast, those who associate closely with the heedless and misguided gradually begin to adopt their outlook and behavior. Although this transformation may begin subtly, over time it weakens spiritual awareness and erodes a person's connection with Allah, the Exalted. Such companionship normalizes negligence, encourages indulgence in desires, and leads to the misuse of blessings. As a result, a person's understanding of right and wrong becomes distorted, priorities are misplaced, relationships are mishandled, and harmony within life is lost. When obedience to Allah, the Exalted, is replaced with the pursuit of fleeting pleasures, social approval, or misguided ideals, the heart becomes unsettled and restless. No amount of material comfort, popularity, or outward success can compensate for the emptiness created by spiritual neglect. Even if such a person appears content externally, they often experience inner anxiety, dissatisfaction, and instability. Their relationships become strained, their thoughts unsettled, and their hearts burdened by an unspoken sense of loss and regret. Thus, the consequences of bad companionship are not limited to this world alone. They produce confusion, distress, and imbalance in this life, and lead to severe loss in the next. In contrast, righteous companionship nurtures peace of mind, strengthens faith, and prepares a person for lasting success beyond this world. For this reason, a wise person is careful and deliberate in choosing companions, seeking the company of those who remind them of Allah, the Exalted, whose character inspires obedience, and whose presence encourages steadfastness upon truth and virtue. Chapter 45 Al-Jathiyah, verse 19.
While Allah is the protector of the righteous.
In order to protect oneself from blind imitation of society, from adopting harmful companionship, and from all other forms of misguidance that prevent the attainment of peace of mind in both worlds, a person must firmly adhere to divine guidance. It is only through this guidance that clarity, balance, and true direction are achieved. Allah, the Exalted, affirms this reality in the Holy Quran. Chapter 45 Al-Jathiyah, verse 20.
This Quran is enlightenment for mankind and guidance.
This verse establishes that divine revelation is not merely a source of spiritual instruction, but a comprehensive illumination for human life. Regardless of how advanced a society may become, and irrespective of how much knowledge it acquires across various disciplines, whether related to psychology, sociology, biology, or the physical sciences, it remains impossible for humanity to formulate a code of conduct that fully aligns with human nature and adequately addresses every circumstance individuals and societies will encounter throughout their existence. This limitation exists because human knowledge is inherently incomplete and continually evolving. Even today, people are still uncovering new information about specific aspects of human existence, such as the functions at different regions of the brain and the complexities of human behavior. If humanity has yet to fully comprehend itself, it cannot possibly construct a flawless system of guidance capable of producing lasting tranquility and justice at both the individual and societal levels. Human-made codes of conduct are therefore always subject to revision, contradiction, bias, and failure. Only Allah, the Exalted, possesses the ability to provide such a perfect and comprehensive code of conduct. As the creator of all things, His knowledge is absolute and unlimited, encompassing the past, present, and future in their entirety. He alone fully understands human nature, its strengths and weaknesses, its needs and tendencies, and the consequences of every action, both visible and hidden. As such, He alone is qualified to define what is truly good and evil, beneficial and harmful, and to provide guidance that leads to peace of mind rather than constant stress, confusion, and instability. History bears clear witness that whenever this divine code of conduct was sincerely implemented in the lives of individuals and communities, it produced justice, harmony, and inner tranquility. Societies that upheld divine guidance experienced balance between rights and responsibilities, restraint alongside freedom, and moral clarity amid social complexity. Conversely, whenever divine guidance was abandoned in favor of human desires or flawed ideologies, confusion, injustice, and unrest inevitably followed. For this reason, individuals must embrace the divine code of conduct granted to them, recognizing it as the most beneficial path for their well-being, even when certain aspects conflict with personal desires or societal norms. True wisdom lies in submission to what is known to be beneficial, even when it is challenging. In this respect, a person should behave like a wise patient who trusts the expertise of their physician. Although the prescribed treatment may involve bitter medicine or a strict and uncomfortable diet, the patient accepts it with patience and discipline, fully aware that it serves their long-term health and recovery. Likewise, obedience to Allah the Exalted may require restraint, sacrifice, and self-discipline, yet it ultimately leads to healing of the heart, stability of the mind, and peace in both this world and the hereafter. By adhering to divine guidance with understanding and patience, a person safeguards themselves from misguidance, preserves balance in all aspects of life, and secures true tranquility that no worldly system can provide. Chapter 45 Al-Jathiyah, verse 20.
And mercy for a people who are certain.
However, because obedience to Allah, the Exalted, often contradicts the worldly desires of people, much like the guidance of a medical doctor often conflicts with the immediate cravings of a patient, many people persist in disobeying Allah, the Exalted, by misusing the blessings He has granted them. Instead of exercising restraint and gratitude, they choose comfort, indulgence, and convenience, even when these choices harm them in the long term. A person who behaves in this manner must not deceive themselves into believing that the absence of immediate punishment, or their failure to recognize punishment, means that they will not be held accountable at all. Divine justice is not negated by delay, nor is punishment limited only to what is instantly visible. Chapter 45 Al-Jathiyah, verse 21.
Or do those who commit evils think we will make them like those who have believed and done righteous deeds, make them equal in their life and their death?
In this worldly life, such an attitude prevents a person from attaining a balanced mental and physical state. Their misuse of blessings causes them to misplace priorities, relationships, and responsibilities, resulting in internal disorder and instability. Consequently, everything in their life, such as family, friends, career, and wealth, gradually becomes a source of stress rather than comfort. Instead of recognizing the true cause of their unrest, they begin blaming the wrong people and circumstances, such as their spouse or close relatives, for the pressure they experience. If they persist in disobeying Allah, the Exalted, This misplaced blame leads them to sever healthy and supportive relationships. Rather than bringing relief, this isolation deepens their instability, often manifesting in increasing mental distress. Over time, this may spiral into severe conditions such as depression, substance addiction, and even suicidal tendencies. This tragic outcome is clearly observable in many who continue to misuse the blessings they have been granted, particularly among those who possess wealth, fame, and outward success, yet remain inwardly restless and unfulfilled despite their luxurious lifestyles. Furthermore, because such individuals fail to prepare for their accountability on the day of judgment, their loss is not confined to this world alone. The consequences awaiting them in the hereafter will be far more severe, as they chose fleeting desire over lasting obedience and neglected the purpose for which their blessings were given. Chapter 45 Jathiyah, verse 21.
Evil is that which they judge.
This verse exposes the flawed reasoning of those who assume that temporary comfort or delayed consequences signify approval or success. In reality, their judgment is deeply misguided. True success lies not in the unrestricted pursuit of desire, but in obedience to Allah, the Exalted, proper use of blessings, and preparation for accountability. Only through this path can a person attain peace of mind in this world, and safety in the next. Chapter 45 Jathiyah, verse 21.
Or do those who commit evils think we will make them like those who have believed and done righteous deeds, make them equal in their life and their death? Evil is that which they judge.
This verse also dispels a form of wishful thinking that leads people astray, namely, the false belief that they can persist in disobeying Allah, the Exalted, yet somehow attain peace of mind in both worlds through indirect means, such as the intercession of another person, or relying solely on repentance at the time of Judgment Day without sincere effort in this life. Such assumptions are misguided, for true success and lasting tranquility cannot be achieved without active obedience and correct use of the blessings granted by Allah, the Exalted. Real hope, by contrast, is grounded in striving sincerely in obedience to Allah, the Exalted, and consistently applying the guidance of Islamic teachings in every aspect of life. It requires utilizing the provisions, abilities, and resources that one has been granted in a manner pleasing to Allah, the Exalted, while concurrently seeking His mercy and forgiveness in both worlds. This understanding differentiates genuine hope from mere wishful thinking, and has been emphasized in a hadith found in Jami at Tirmidhi, number 2459. Therefore, it is vital for a person to recognize this distinction and ensure that their hope rests firmly upon the mercy and forgiveness of Allah, the Exalted, rather than upon unrealistic expectations or shortcuts. Failing to do so leads to spiritual negligence and a mismanagement of blessings, ultimately preventing the attainment of peace and contentment in both this life and the hereafter. If Allah the Exalted were to treat those who misuse His blessings and persist in disobedience the same as those who strive to follow His commands, the very purpose of life in this world would be undermined. Such equality between obedience and rebellion would contradict divine wisdom, for this earthly life has been established as a place of examination where every individual is distinguished by the choices they make. Chapter 45 Jathiyah, verse 22.
And Allah created the heavens and earth with purpose, and so that every soul may be recompensed for what it has earned, and they will not be wronged.
This verse makes it evident that the Day of Judgment is not simply a theological concept, it is an unavoidable necessity. When one reflects on the natural world, they see a universe built upon precision and equilibrium. The earth maintains a perfect distance from the sun, allowing life to flourish. The water cycle functions with exactness, ensuring that rain continues to nourish the land. Even the soil is balanced, delicate enough for tender shoots to emerge, yet strong enough to support mountains and human structures. These signs not only point to the existence of a creator, but also reveal His establishment of balance throughout creation. Yet within this vast harmony, one striking imbalance stands out: the moral actions of human beings. In this world, tyrants often escape accountability, while the oppressed suffer without receiving their due compensation. Many believers who sincerely obey Allah, the Exalted, endure hardship and receive only a fraction of their reward in this life, while those who openly defy Him may enjoy comfort and prosperity. Since balance is a defining feature of creation, justice demands that human deeds also be balanced. Because this balance is not achieved here, it must occur in another realm, the Day of Judgment. Allah, the Exalted, could have chosen to deliver complete reward and punishment in this world. Yet His wisdom dictates otherwise. He grants people time and opportunity to repent, correct their behavior, and return to Him. Likewise, He withholds the full reward of the believers because this world is not meant to be paradise. Faith is built upon belief in the unseen. If every consequence were immediate and visible, faith would lose its essence. It is the unseen promise of the hereafter that gives faith its sincerity, depth, and beauty. Fear of ultimate accountability and hope for eternal reward are powerful motivators that encourage a person to avoid wrongdoing and pursue righteousness. These two qualities, fear and hope, form the foundation of a balanced spiritual life. For the day of recompense to take place, the actions of humanity must first come to an end. Reward and punishment can only be administered once every deed has been completed. This means that the material world must eventually reach its conclusion, for the final judgment cannot occur while human actions continue. Reflecting on these realities strengthens one's certainty in the Day of Judgment. This certainty inspires a person to prepare for it, by using the blessings they have been granted, in accordance with the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Through such obedience, they attain tranquility in this life and success in the next, achieving a balanced mental and physical state, and placing everything and everyone in their life in its rightful place. Chapter 45 Al-Jathiyah, verse 22. And Allah created the heavens and earth with purpose, and so that every soul may be recompensed for what it has earned, and they will not be wronged. But as obeying Allah, the Exalted, often contradicts the worldly desires and aspirations of people, many individuals may end up worshipping those very desires instead of Allah, the Exalted, even if they outwardly claim belief in Islam. Chapter 45 Al-Jathiyah, verse 23.
Have you seen he who has taken as his God his own desire?
When a person becomes entirely consumed by their worldly desires, those desires begin to dictate their every thought, decision, and action. Rather than acting with reason, accountability, and awareness, the individual is driven solely by the pursuit of immediate gratification, often disregarding ethical limits, long-term consequences, or the guidance of Allah, the Exalted. Such a state enslaves the person to their whims, effectively making their desires a god that controls them in place of the true Creator. Chapter 45 Al-Jathiyah, verse 23.
And Allah has allowed them to go astray despite their knowledge, and has set a seal upon his hearing and his heart, and put over his vision a veil. So who will guide him after Allah?
The sealing of the heart, the veiling of the vision, and the closing of the hearing are attributed to Allah, the Exalted, as nothing occurs without His permission. Yet it is important to recognize that this outcome is a direct consequence of the person's own choices and persistent disobedience. Their willful indulgence in desires effectively leads to spiritual blindness, deafness, and insensitivity to guidance, similar to how an addict loses control over their behavior due to their addiction. Consider the example of a person addicted to drugs. Their desire for the substance dominates every aspect of life. They may steal, lie, or harm themselves and others without understanding the magnitude of their actions, as their judgment has been entirely overtaken by addiction. In the same manner, when worldly desires, such as the excessive pursuit of wealth, power, or pleasure, are left unchecked, they can dominate a person's behavior, clouding their moral judgment and causing them to commit immoral acts. This spiritual enslavement may also lead to physical and mental health deterioration, as uncontrolled desires often result in stress, anxiety, and imbalance. Therefore, it is essential to learn how to manage one's desires carefully, pursuing only those that are lawful, balanced, and in accordance with the guidance of Allah, the Exalted. By doing so, a person safeguards their mind, body, and soul from being consumed by desires that inevitably lead to wrongdoing and suffering. Chapter 45 Al-Jathiyah, verse 23.
Then will you not be reminded?
This verse serves as a powerful call to self-reflection, urging people to recognize the danger of allowing desires to dominate their lives, and to actively cultivate obedience, balance, and mindfulness in every aspect of their existence. A primary reason many people deny or ignore resurrection and accountability on the Day of Judgment is the difficulty of controlling their worldly desires and ambitions. Accepting and preparing for Judgment Day requires restraint, discipline, and prioritizing eternal well-being over immediate pleasures. Consequently, even when presented with clear evidence of resurrection, some will reject it or fail to act upon it, despite verbally claiming belief. Chapter 45 Jathiyah, verse 24.
And they say, there is naught but our worldly life, we die and live and nothing destroys us except time.
This verse makes clear that their denial is not based on reason or evidence, but on assumptions and attachment to worldly life. Chapter 45 Jathiyah, verse 24.
And they have of that no knowledge, they are only assuming.
Denying resurrection is striking, particularly when the world around us is full of signs showing life emerging from apparent death. Allah, the Exalted, has created countless examples of revival in nature, repeated consistently across time and generations, which clearly illustrate the reality of resurrection for anyone willing to reflect. Consider the land after a rainfall. Soil that seemed dry and dead becomes fertile, seeds swell, sprout and grow, producing plants that sustain life. If Allah, the Exalted, can restore a tiny seed, then raising a human being, placed in the earth after death, is even less difficult for him. The cycle of the seasons provides further evidence. Winter leaves trees bare and lifeless, stripped of color and vitality. Yet with spring they bloom again, leaves unfurl, flowers blossom, and landscapes once thought dead are revived. This recurring pattern demonstrates resurrection in the natural world. Even within the human body, a form of resurrection occurs constantly. Skin cells, blood cells, and countless tissues die and are renewed every moment. Though this process is continuous, most people rarely pause to consider its significance. A caterpillar enclosed in a cocoon appears lifeless, but emerges as a fully transformed butterfly. Desert plants can remain dry and seemingly dead for years, yet a single rainfall brings them back to life. Forests destroyed by fire regenerate as new shoots rise from charred soil, and entire ecosystems recover. Animals that hibernate enter deep states of inactivity, almost like death, only to awaken revitalized with the changing seasons. Even the oceans reflect cycles of renewal. Coral reefs that appear dead after bleaching events can recover when conditions improve. The heavens themselves display creation arising from destruction, as stars collapse and scatter matter, which forms new stars and planets. Sleep serves as a daily, personal example. The sleeper's senses and awareness are suspended, yet upon waking, life is restored. Allah, the Exalted, orchestrates this process, exemplifying resurrection on a scale that is immediate and observable in everyday life. Chapter 39 Az-Zumar, verse 42.
Allah takes the souls at the time of their death, and those that do not die He takes during their sleep. Then He keeps those for which He has decreed death, and releases the others for a specified term. Indeed, in that are signs for a people who give thought.
Through these signs, it becomes evident that resurrection is not only possible, but is already demonstrated across creation. Those who reject it do so not out of reason, but because their desires blind them from reflecting on the evidence Allah, the Exalted, has placed before them. True recognition of resurrection requires awareness, contemplation, and the discipline to submit to divine guidance, using the blessings granted in obedience to Allah, the Exalted, to prepare for accountability. Furthermore, as explained earlier in detail, the Day of Judgment is an inevitable reality. Observing the universe reveals countless examples of balance, the precise distance of the Earth from the Sun, the cycles of water, and the regulation of populations among different species. These examples not only point unmistakably to the existence of a creator, but also demonstrate a perfect equilibrium within creation. Yet there is one area in this world that remains clearly unbalanced: the actions of human beings. Just as Allah, the Exalted, has established balance in all His creations, the reward and punishment for human deeds must also be proportionate. Since this balance does not fully manifest in the material world, it must occur at another time, specifically on the Day of Judgment. For the day of recompense to take place, the material world must come to an end. This is because reward and punishment can only be administered once all actions have concluded. Until the deeds of humanity are complete, the Day of Judgment cannot commence. Thus, the conclusion of the material world is a necessary precondition, which will inevitably occur in due course. Chapter 45 Jathiyah, verse 22.
For Allah created the heavens and the earth for a purpose, so that every soul may be paid back for what it has committed. And none will be wronged.
Chapter 45 Jathiyah, verse 24.
And they say, there is not but our worldly life, we die and live and nothing destroys us except time. And they have of that no knowledge, they are only assuming.
Ultimately, the reality is that without Judgment Day and the hereafter, life in this world would lack its true meaning and purpose. Every element of worldly existence is transient and inherently imperfect. No matter how much a person accumulates, whether wealth, authority, knowledge, or relationships, they are inevitably separated from it, either through the slow march of time or the certainty of death. If life were confined solely to this ephemeral realm, all human effort would amount to chasing what will inevitably vanish, leaving behind nothing of enduring significance. It is the certainty of Judgment Day and the existence of the hereafter that elevates life beyond this cycle of temporary gains and inevitable losses. These truths provide a higher, perfect, and permanent goal for humanity to pursue, transforming every action, sacrifice, and moment of patience into deeds of eternal consequence. Without them, existence would be reduced to the pursuit of fleeting pleasures, ending in futility. With them, however, life becomes a purposeful journey, where every trial is a test, every blessing is a trust, and every effort is an investment in everlasting success. The promise of accountability ensures that ultimate justice will prevail, no act of goodness will be left unrewarded, and no injustice will go unaddressed. This knowledge reassures the heart that struggles and sacrifices are not meaningless, but are stepping stones toward eternal reward. Belief in Judgment Day and the hereafter gives profound meaning to suffering, guidance to effort, and permanence to virtues such as truth, patience, humility, and compassion. In essence, the hereafter is not merely a continuation of life, it is the very foundation that gives coherence and purpose to this worldly existence. Without it, human life would be aimless, driven by temporary whims and fleeting desires. With it, every action becomes an opportunity to seek what is enduring and eternal, to align one's life with divine guidance, and to cultivate a legacy that transcends the limitations of this world. It is this awareness that enables a person to live with clarity, discipline, and true purpose, making every moment a chance to prepare for a life that will never end. As stated earlier, the leaders among the non-Muslims of Mecca adopted various tactics to prevent others from accepting Islam, driven primarily by fear of losing their authority, status, and social dominance. One of their most prominent strategies was to cast doubt on the reality of resurrection and accountability on the Day of Judgment. Rather than engaging honestly with the abundant evidence pointing to resurrection, they demanded a physical demonstration, insisting that past generations be brought back to life as proof, despite the many clear signs already surrounding them. Chapter 45 Jathiyah, verse 25.
And when our verses are recited to them as clear evidences, their argument is only that they say, "Bring back our forefathers if you should be truthful."
Through this demand they sought not truth, but delay, denial, and distraction. In response, Allah the Exalted firmly rebukes their arrogance and exposes the weakness of their challenge by reminding them of an undeniable reality. The same one who granted life in the first place is fully capable of restoring it again. Chapter 45 Jathiyah, verse 26.
Say, Allah causes you to live, then causes you to die. Then he will assemble you for the day of resurrection, about which there is no doubt, but most of the people do not know.
The insistence of the leaders of the non-Muslims of Mecca on witnessing a physical resurrection was, in truth, deeply irrational. Faith derives its true value from believing in realities that lie beyond direct sensory perception. Certain truths, such as the existence of Allah the Exalted, cannot be seen with the eyes, yet they are affirmed through overwhelming signs. The created world itself stands as evidence. Just as the existence of a painting necessitates a painter, the existence of a precisely ordered universe necessitates a creator. The balance, structure, and harmony observed throughout creation testify unmistakably to deliberate design and supreme knowledge. Moreover, human beings routinely accept unseen realities in their daily lives without hesitation. People consume medicine while having no direct awareness of how it functions within their bodies, trusting its effects despite lacking sensory access to its internal processes. If unseen realities are readily accepted in worldly matters based on evidence and outcomes, then rejecting unseen truths in matters of faith, despite far greater signs, is inconsistent and unreasonable. Islamic teachings are grounded in sound reasoning, clear evidence, and common sense. At the same time, certain elements of the religion relate to the unseen, and this is intentional. Faith carries meaning precisely because it involves trust, submission, and acceptance without full sensory confirmation. For this reason, belief that only emerges after the unseen becomes visible, such as witnessing angels, holds no value with Allah the Exalted. At that point, belief is no longer a choice, it is merely an acknowledgement of the unavoidable. The true test of humanity lies in whether people accept reality before it is forced upon them, and whether, having accepted it, they choose obedience to Allah, the Exalted, despite possessing the freedom and ability to disobey. Throughout history, through the sending of the holy prophets, peace be upon them, and the revelation of divine scriptures, Allah, the Exalted, has always preserved this balance. He has never removed the veil of the unseen to such an extent that belief becomes compulsory, for doing so would nullify the very purpose of the test. If belief were unavoidable, sincerity would disappear, and obedience would lose all meaning. This is why people must not wait for Allah, the Exalted, or His angels to appear before them. Such an event would not mark the beginning of guidance, it would signal the end of the world. Once the unseen is fully unveiled, the opportunity to choose ends. Faith and obedience only possess value, while rejection remains possible. If the truth were made visible to every eye, even the most stubborn denier and the most rebellious sinner would be compelled to submit. Yet such submission would lack humility, sincerity, and spiritual worth. As long as the unseen remains veiled, human beings are free to choose belief or disbelief, obedience or disobedience. When that veil is completely lifted, the test concludes. That moment, when all reality stands exposed and every excuse collapses, is the Day of Judgment. Chapter 45 Al-Jathiyah, verse 27.
And to Allah belongs the dominion of the heavens and the earth.
In reality, since all of creation belongs to Allah, the Exalted, and exists entirely under His authority, dominion, and control, a person ultimately has no option but to live within the boundaries He has established. Just as an individual cannot ignore the laws of a country without facing consequences, a person likewise cannot ignore the laws of the owner of the universe without suffering harm in both this world and the next. Disobedience does not eliminate authority, it only guarantees accountability. A person may choose to leave a country if they disagree with its rules, but there is no place in existence where the authority and jurisdiction of Allah, the Exalted, do not apply. One might succeed in influencing or altering the rules of their society, yet it is impossible to change the laws set by Allah, the Exalted. His governance is absolute and unavoidable. This reality can be understood through a simple analogy. The owner of a house determines its rules, regardless of whether guests agree with them or object. Ownership grants authority. Likewise, the universe belongs entirely to Allah, the Exalted, and therefore He alone has the right to establish its rules, whether people find them convenient or restrictive. These rules are not imposed arbitrarily, they exist for the benefit, protection, and balance of creation. For this reason, compliance with divine guidance is not merely an obligation, it is an act of wisdom and self-preservation. A person who understands this truth willingly submits to the rules of Allah, the Exalted, and strives to obey Him by using the blessings they have been granted in ways pleasing to Him, as outlined in the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Such a person recognizes that divine commands are not obstacles to freedom, but pathways to peace of mind, stability, and fulfillment in both worlds. A person then faces a clear choice. They may strive to learn the wisdom behind the commands and prohibitions of Allah, the Exalted, understanding how these teachings protect individuals, strengthen society, and lead to mental, physical, and spiritual balance. Or they may choose to follow their desires, reject divine guidance, and live according to personal impulses. But this choice does not remove consequences. It only determines when and how they will be faced. Those who refuse to comply with Islamic teachings must therefore prepare themselves for the outcomes of that decision in both this world and the hereafter. No objection, protest, or complaint will alter divine justice once accountability arrives. Chapter 45 Al-Jathiyah, verses 27 to 29.
And the day the hour appears, that day the falsifiers will lose. And you will see every nation kneeling. Every nation will be called to its record and told, "Today you will be recompensed for what you used to do. This is our record, it speaks about you in truth. Indeed, we were having transcribed whatever you used to do."
It is essential for a person to regularly evaluate their own deeds, for no one, other than Allah, the Exalted, is more aware of their actions, intentions, and shortcomings than they themselves. When a person sincerely holds themselves to account, this self-examination awakens the conscience, motivates genuine repentance from sins, and encourages consistent engagement in righteous deeds. These righteous deeds involve using the blessings one has been granted, such as time, health, wealth, and ability, in ways that are pleasing to Allah, the Exalted. In contrast, the one who neglects to regularly assess their actions gradually slips into a state of heedlessness. In this condition, blessings are misused, opportunities are wasted, and wrong actions are normalized. Such a person will find the weighing of deeds on the Day of Judgment extremely difficult. In fact, persistent neglect and misuse of blessings may lead to catastrophic consequences, including punishment in hell. This reality can be understood through a simple worldly analogy. A wise business owner routinely reviews their accounts. By doing so, they ensure their business is moving in the correct direction and that all obligations, such as tax records and financial reporting, are prepared accurately. In contrast, a careless business owner neglects this process. As a result, profits decline, errors accumulate, and they fail to prepare properly for official scrutiny. When accounts are not submitted correctly, penalties are imposed, making life increasingly difficult. However, the consequences of failing to assess one's deeds are far more severe than any financial fine. The reckoning on the Day of Judgment is absolute and unavoidable, and its outcome determines eternal success or loss. Chapter 99 Az-Zalala, verses 7 to 8.
So whoever does an atom's weight of good will see it. And whoever does an atom's weight of evil will see it.
Finally, a person must not only avoid sinful actions, but should also strive to avoid wasting the blessings they have been granted on vain pursuits. Although vain activities may not always be sinful, they do not qualify as righteous deeds. As such, they will lead to deep regret on the Day of Judgment, when a person realizes that the time, energy, and resources spent on meaningless matters could have been placed on the positive side of the scales had they been used correctly. In some cases, the difference between salvation and ruin may be as small as a single deed. When the scales are finely balanced, even a slight weight of good or a wasted opportunity can determine a person's final outcome. For this reason, regular self-accountability, sincere repentance, and purposeful use of blessings are not optional practices. They are essential preparations for the day when every deed will be brought forth and nothing will be hidden. Chapter 45 Al-Jathiyah, verse 30.
So as for those who believed and did righteous deeds, their Lord will admit them into His mercy. That is what is the clear attainment.
If a person persists in failing to practically prepare for their accountability on the Day of Judgment, by continually misusing the blessings they were granted, despite verbally claiming belief in it, they may ultimately be judged as someone who did not truly believe at all. Mere words, when unsupported by action, carry little weight before divine justice. Chapter 45 Al-Jathiyah, verse 31.
But as for those who disbelieved, it will be said, were not our verses recited to you, but you were arrogant and became a people of criminals.
In this worldly life, people are judged according to what is outwardly expressed. Legal and social dealings are based on verbal declarations and visible conduct, as inner realities remain hidden from human judgment. In contrast, in the hereafter, judgment belongs exclusively to Allah, the Exalted. He alone assesses people according to what truly resides within their hearts, realities concealed from all others. For this reason, A person who verbally claims belief in Allah, the Exalted, and in accountability in the hereafter, yet repeatedly contradicts that claim through their actions, may in reality possess no genuine belief at all. Consequently, such a person may be treated as one who rejected the truth on the Day of Judgment, even if they were regarded differently by society in this world. Chapter 45 Al-Jathiyah, verse 32.
And when it was said, "Indeed the promise of Allah is truth and the hour is coming, no doubt about it," you said, "We know not what is the hour. We assume only assumption, and we are not convinced."
This verse exposes the inner contradiction of those whose words suggest belief, while their behavior reflects doubt, indifference, or denial. Their lack of practical preparation reveals that their acknowledgement was never rooted in conviction, but merely in assumption. Moreover, a person who does not reinforce their verbal claim of faith with obedience places themselves at serious risk of losing faith altogether before death. Faith is not a fixed state, it must be actively maintained to survive. It resembles a living plant that requires constant nourishment to remain healthy. Just as a plant deprived of sunlight, water, and care will gradually weaken and die, faith that is not sustained through righteous action and proper use of blessings will steadily decline and may eventually disappear. This outcome represents one of the greatest losses a person can suffer. Mere words are insufficient to preserve faith, and claims unaccompanied by commitment carry no weight. True belief is demonstrated through obedience, consistency, and preparation for accountability. When actions repeatedly contradict declared belief, the reality eventually becomes manifest. Chapter 45 Al-Jathiyah, verse 33.
And the evil consequences of what they did will appear to them, and they will be enveloped by what they used to ridicule.
This verse stands as a final and decisive warning. A person's actions will ultimately uncover the reality concealed within their heart. Everything that was once dismissed, doubted, or mocked will fully encompass them, leaving no space for excuses or denial. On the Day of Judgment, outcomes will not be determined by verbal claims, social identity, or outward appearance, but by what a person truly believed, how they lived, and whether they genuinely prepared for accountability. Whoever neglected practical preparation for the Day of Judgment, despite being reminded of it, will face a response befitting that neglect. Just as they chose to ignore that meeting, they will be ignored in return. In that moment, divine mercy and forgiveness will be withdrawn, and neither worldly success, status, nor relationships will provide any benefit or protection. All supports that once seemed reliable will vanish, exposing the emptiness of what was relied upon, instead of obedience to Allah, the Exalted. Chapter 45 Al-Jathiyah, verse 34.
And it will be said, "Today we will forget you, as you forgot the meeting of this day of yours, and your refuge is the fire, and for you there are no helpers."
This verse makes clear that neglect has consequences equal to its severity. Forgetting accountability leads to being abandoned at the moment it is needed most. It is a stark reminder that preparation for the Day of Judgment is not optional, symbolic, or theoretical. It is a lived commitment. Only those who took that responsibility seriously, through belief supported by action, will find mercy, aid, and safety when all false supports have disappeared. Allah, the Exalted, makes clear that the primary reason people reach such a disastrous outcome is their failure to take the divine code of conduct seriously. Instead of approaching it with humility and commitment, they treat it lightly and without reverence. Chapter 45 Al-Jathiyah, verse 35.
That is because you took the verses of Allah in ridicule.
This ridicule does not always appear as open denial. Often, it manifests in a more subtle but equally dangerous form, selective obedience. Because the divine code of conduct conflicts with worldly desires and ambitions, some people choose to follow only those teachings that suit them while ignoring the rest. For example, a person may fulfill acts of worship such as prayer, yet neglect obedience to Allah, the Exalted, in their daily dealings, relationships, finances, and moral choices. This leads to an ignorant and deeply flawed mindset, the belief that Allah, the Exalted, only cares about specific religious rituals and will not question how a person behaves in worldly matters. In reality, Allah, the Exalted, will question people about every situation they encountered, whether it appeared worldly or religious. There is no separation between the two. Every decision, interaction, and use of blessings falls under divine accountability. For this reason, a person must strive to learn and apply divine guidance comprehensively, so that they respond correctly in every circumstance. When this is done sincerely, it produces balance and harmony within a person's mental and physical state. Everything and everyone in their life is placed in its proper position, priorities are clarified, and the person becomes adequately prepared for their responsibilities on the day of judgment. This way of life leads to tranquility and stability in both worlds. Islam must not be treated like a garment that is worn when convenient and removed when it conflicts with desire. A person who behaves in this manner is in reality not submitting to divine guidance at all, but is instead worshipping their own desires, regardless of what they claim. Chapter 25 Al-Furqan, verse 43.
Have you seen the one who takes as his God his own desire?
The one who fails to act upon divine teachings consistently will inevitably misuse the blessings they have been granted. This misuse results in imbalance, causing them to misplace priorities, relationships, and responsibilities. Over time, this produces stress, inner turmoil, and persistent difficulties, even if outwardly they appear to enjoy comfort or luxury. Because such a person neglected to prepare practically for their accountability on the day of judgment, the consequences awaiting them in the hereafter will be far more severe. Worldly success will not compensate for spiritual neglect, and temporary comfort will not shield them from the outcome of a life lived in selective obedience. True peace, stability, and safety lie only in taking the divine code of conduct seriously, fully, consistently, and sincerely. Another fundamental reason for misguidance is when a person allows the attractions of worldly life to distract them from accepting, respecting, or acting upon Islamic teachings. Allah, the Exalted, explicitly identifies this danger. Chapter 45 Al-Jathiyah, verse 35.
And worldly life deluded you.
This statement exposes a deeply rooted human weakness. Many people become so immersed in the pursuit of wealth, status, comfort, entertainment, and social approval that spiritual awareness gradually fades. Over time, success becomes measured solely by material achievement, and peace is wrongly equated with comfort and recognition. As this mindset takes hold, divine guidance is pushed aside, not necessarily through outright rejection but through neglect and distraction. This delusion is strengthened by the influence of the surrounding society. When people observe the majority relentlessly chasing worldly desires, they begin to assume, often unconsciously, that this must be the correct path. What starts as observation slowly becomes belief. Material ambition is normalized, while spiritual discipline is seen as unnecessary or outdated. This illusion is further reinforced by influential forces such as media, businesses, celebrities, and public figures, who constantly promote the idea that happiness lies in consumption, appearance, popularity, and pleasure. Whether intentionally or not, they help cultivate a culture that glorifies self-indulgence and marginalizes restraint and accountability. A person must therefore guard themselves against blindly following societal norms. The tendency to imitate the majority is a recognized psychological phenomenon, where people assume that widespread behavior must be correct simply because it is common. History repeatedly disproves this assumption. Many beliefs once held by the majority were later exposed as false, including ideas about the nature of the earth, the causes of disease, and countless social norms. Truth does not change based on popularity, and error does not become correct through numbers. Chapter 6 Al-An'am, verse 116.
And if you obey most of those upon the earth, they will mislead you from the way of Allah. They follow not except assumption, and they are not but guessing.
This verse highlights that most people tend to act on conjecture rather than true understanding. Social fashions, dominant opinions, and widely accepted norms often emerge from personal inclinations, convenience, or guesswork. Because they are rooted in uncertainty, they remain unstable and constantly shift, leaving those who depend on them unsettled and disoriented. A person who structures their life around changing social values is forced to repeatedly alter direction, moving from one trend to the next in search of fulfillment that never truly lasts. In contrast, the guidance of Allah, the Exalted, is constant and timeless. When a person engages their reason, intellect, and reflection with the teachings of Islam, They develop clarity and discernment that protect them from manipulation, social pressure, and shallow influences. Islam actively promotes learning, thoughtful reflection on the signs within creation, and action grounded in knowledge rather than blind imitation. This approach frees an individual from the exhaustion of chasing ever-changing expectations, and provides steadiness, inner balance, and a clear sense of purpose in life. Chapter 12 Yusuf, verse 108.
Say, this is my way, I invite to Allah with insight, I and those who follow me.
When a person anchors their outlook in divine guidance rather than public opinion, their heart finds stability and their principles remain steady despite social change. They are no longer bound by the need for approval from others. True peace arises from living in harmony with the purpose for which Allah, the Exalted, created them. By contrast, those who look to society for direction are often trapped in confusion, restlessness, and persistent dissatisfaction. They pursue desires that never yield lasting fulfillment, while their minds become exhausted from trying to keep pace with constantly shifting social standards. What is celebrated today may be condemned tomorrow, and what is admired in one era may be discarded in the next. Anyone who builds their identity on such unstable ground is left feeling anxious, lost, and unsettled. For this reason, the warning of Allah, the Exalted, is a profound act of mercy. It reminds every person that the attraction of worldly life can be deceptive and that real success lies in resisting blind conformity. Genuine clarity, peace, and fulfillment emerge when a person follows the truth, even if doing so requires standing apart from the majority. Those who reflect upon this guidance and commit themselves to the teachings of the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, discover that their hearts and minds become firmly grounded, their lives balanced, and their actions aligned with the true purpose of creation, resulting in tranquility in this world and enduring success in the next. It is also essential to recognize that worldly pursuits and possessions, such as wealth, fame, authority, family, friendships, and career, only hold real value when they are accompanied by peace of mind. Without inner tranquility, the very things people strive for most intensely can turn into sources of stress, anxiety, and hardship, affecting both this life and the hereafter. Instead of benefiting a person, they can become heavy burdens that distort priorities and undermine well-being. This reality is clearly visible in the lives of many who possess great wealth or public recognition. Despite their material comfort and privilege, they often suffer from emotional unrest, dissatisfaction, and mental instability. Their abundance fails to bring lasting peace because true serenity is not found in possessions or achievements. It is attained only through sincere submission to Allah, the Exalted. Chapter 45 Al-Jathiyah, verse 35.
And worldly life deluded you.
Every individual must place the pursuit of inner peace above the mere accumulation of worldly desires. True peace is not achieved through wealth, status, or possessions alone, but through achieving harmony of mind and body and correctly situating all aspects of life, relationships, career, resources, and responsibilities within their proper roles. Blessings misused or treated as ends in themselves become burdens that disrupt this balance. When used in accordance with divine guidance, they become instruments of tranquility, stability, and success. Attaining such equilibrium requires recognizing that only Allah, the Exalted, possesses the knowledge and wisdom necessary to establish a life in balance. No matter how advanced or knowledgeable human beings become, they cannot create a system capable of accommodating the full complexity of human existence. Societies may establish laws, and science may uncover profound insights into the mind, body, and social dynamics, yet these efforts remain limited and fallible. Even as researchers explore the intricacies of the brain or map human behavior, they grasp only a fraction of the full reality of existence. If humanity has not mastered its own mind, body, and relationships, how could it design a flawless system that ensures justice, wisdom, and balance across all aspects of life? Human-made frameworks are inherently prone to error, bias, and revision. They cannot provide a universal standard that guarantees peace, equity, or fulfillment across all times and circumstances. Only Allah, the Exalted, has this capability. As the Creator, His knowledge is limitless, encompassing every moment of the past, present, and future. His wisdom is perfect, His justice absolute, and His mercy all-encompassing. Unlike human understanding, which is partial and limited, Allah, the Exalted, knows every detail of creation and every event that will occur within it. Therefore, only He is qualified to provide humanity with a divine code of conduct, a standard that clearly distinguishes right from wrong, beneficial from harmful, and guides individuals toward a life of balance and peace. His guidance is comprehensive, timeless, and free from error. Those who sincerely follow it find that it governs not only external actions but also cultivates the inner self. Obedience to Allah nurtures clarity of mind, tranquility of heart, and strength of body. It offers a framework through which worldly blessings can be rightly utilized, priorities aligned, and peace of mind attained. In essence, submission to Allah, the Exalted, is the only reliable path to harmony, fulfillment, and ultimate success in this life and the hereafter. One of the most dangerous deceptions of worldly desires is instilling in people the false belief that they have abundant time to obey Allah, the Exalted, and prepare for accountability on the Day of Judgment. This misplaced hope often leads individuals to prioritize the accumulation of wealth and pleasures over preparation for the eternal hereafter. A simple reflection on a typical 24-hour day illustrates this imbalance. The majority of time is devoted to work, entertainment, and socializing, while only a small portion is spent in prayer, reflection, or charitable deeds. This demonstrates how the illusion of abundant time can foster negligence toward one's ultimate purpose. False hope in a long life is a primary tool the devil uses to mislead humanity. By convincing people that they have ample opportunity to repent and reform, he encourages perpetual procrastination. In reality, the future people anticipate rarely arrives as expected, and death can occur suddenly, leaving them unprepared and filled with regret. This deception also discourages genuine repentance and moral reform. Many postpone abandoning sinful habits, thinking they will change later, or delay cultivating virtues under the assumption that time is on their side. Similarly, it encourages excessive hoarding of wealth, driven by fear of future need rather than trust in the providence of Allah, the Exalted. In truth, Allah provides for all creation according to His perfect knowledge and wisdom. Provision for every creature was decreed 50,000 years before the creation of the heavens and the earth, as affirmed in Sahih Muslim, Hadith 6748. Yet countless individuals devote decades of their lives accumulating wealth for a brief retirement period, while neglecting preparation for the eternal hereafter, which has no end. This misalignment reveals the profound deception of false hope. Islam does not forbid preparing for worldly needs. Saving for immediate necessities is permissible, but such preparation must never overshadow preparation for the eternal abode. True balance is achieved only when the hereafter remains the foremost concern. Despite awareness that death may arrive at any moment, many behave as if life is infinite, planning decades ahead for careers, wealth, homes, and social standing while neglecting the inevitability of death. Some pursue material gain tirelessly, yet even if they were granted eternal life on earth, human limitations would prevent them from fulfilling every desire. This relentless pursuit blinds them to accountability and divine guidance. Observing how frequently people die earlier than expected reinforces this truth, yet few truly learn from it. Most continue heedlessly, repeating the same mistakes, while only a minority take heed and reform their lives. One of the greatest pains a person can experience, whether at the moment of death or in the hereafter, is the deep regret of having delayed preparation. Chapter 63 Al-Munafiqun, verses 10-11.
And spend in the way of Allah from what we have provided you before death approaches one of you, and he says, My Lord, if only you would delay me for a brief term so I would give charity and be of the righteous. But never will Allah delay a soul when its time has come. And Allah is aware of what you do.
These verses illustrate the futility of regret at the moment of death. Once the appointed time arrives, no delay is granted, and no opportunity remains for repentance or reform. The individual will desperately wish for more time, but their plea will be denied, for the decree of Allah, the Exalted, is absolute. The anguish of this realization, recognizing that wasted opportunities can never be recovered, is profound. Consider the analogy of dedicating years of effort to a house one will inhabit only briefly, while neglecting the construction of a permanent home for life. This reflects precisely the folly of prioritizing the temporal world over the eternal hereafter. The world is a temporary, fragile shelter, while the hereafter is vast, permanent, and enduring. Yet many invest all their energy into the fleeting comforts of this life, decorating, expanding, and protecting them, while neglecting the eternal home that awaits. Such misplaced effort exemplifies the peril of valuing worldly matters above everlasting salvation. A wise person recognizes the certainty of death and prioritizes preparation for what follows. They strive to balance worldly responsibilities with eternal obligations, never allowing temporal concerns to overshadow the pursuit of spiritual readiness. Death is certain, though its timing is hidden. Therefore, preparation for the hereafter must take precedence over speculative plans for the worldly future. Those who understand this truth manage their time, wealth, and actions with wisdom, ensuring that every blessing is used in accordance with the guidance of Allah, the Exalted. In doing so, they cultivate peace of mind, mental and physical balance, and the correct placement of everything and everyone in their life, preparing themselves for success in both this world and the hereafter. Chapter 45 Al-Jathiyah, verse 35.
And worldly life deluded you.
Those who turn away from belief or neglect the practice of Islam are often motivated by attachment to the fleeting pleasures of the material world. They perceive obedience to Allah, the Exalted, not as a source of peace and fulfillment, but as a limitation on their enjoyment. For them, faith appears burdensome, and they either reject it outright or disregard its commands, immersing themselves instead in the pursuit of worldly indulgence, convinced that true freedom and happiness lie in satisfying their desires without restraint. Such individuals frequently regard those who submit to Allah, the Exalted, and act upon their faith with disdain, viewing disciplined believers, who manage their actions and resources according to divine guidance, as enslaved and deprived of pleasure. Yet this perception is fundamentally misguided. True enslavement is not submission to divine wisdom, but surrender to one's own whims. Real excellence belongs to those who submit to Allah, the Exalted, for they are freed from the chains of illusion and the fleeting attractions of the world. In contrast, those who reject divine guidance remain bound to their desires, while those who embrace faith rise above temporary cravings, attaining lasting tranquility and independence from material dependency. This principle can be illustrated with a simple example. A wise parent imposes dietary limits on a child, allowing occasional indulgence while promoting a balanced and nutritious diet. The child may feel restricted and envy peers who enjoy complete freedom to eat whatever they wish. Outwardly, the unrestricted child seems happy, while the disciplined child appears constrained. Over time, however, the truth emerges. The unrestricted child develops health problems such as obesity, diabetes, and high blood pressure, along with diminished self-confidence and mental strain. Their apparent freedom has led to long-term bondage and suffering. The disciplined child, by contrast, grows healthy, confident, and strong in mind and body, liberated from dependency on medications, disease, and the consequences of excess. This example illustrates a profound truth. Wisely imposed restrictions bring freedom and stability, while unchecked indulgence results in lasting enslavement and hardship. Ultimately, true slavery occurs when a person allows anything other than Allah, the Exalted, to dominate their life, whether social media, societal pressures, fashion, culture, or personal desires. Such servitude inevitably produces mental, physical, and social strain, trapping the individual in cycles of dissatisfaction, stress, and imbalance as they attempt to satisfy external demands. Genuine freedom, however, belongs solely to those who submit fully to Allah, the Exalted. Submission to Him brings peace of mind, bodily harmony, life balance, and liberation from the endless chains of worldly cravings. True freedom is not indulgence in every whim, but alignment with divine wisdom, which guides, protects, and elevates humanity. Obedience to Allah, the Exalted, is therefore not a limitation. It is ultimate liberation, freeing the soul from dependence on the material world and granting enduring tranquility and stability in both this life and the hereafter. As highlighted earlier, when a person persistently neglects preparation for accountability on Judgment Day, despite claiming faith in Islam, they risk leaving this world without the very faith they profess. Chapter 45 Al-Jathiyah, verse 35.
So that day they will not be removed from it.
Faith is not a static or unchanging state. It is like a delicate flame that requires constant care and attention. Just as a fire gradually dies without fuel, warmth, or oxygen, faith weakens when it is not actively sustained through regular obedience to Allah, the Exalted, and through the proper use of the blessings He has bestowed. Neglecting divine guidance or prioritizing worldly pleasures over spiritual responsibilities allows this inner light to diminish. Over time, the heart hardens, the connection with Allah, the Exalted, grows tenuous, and the clarity and direction that faith provides become obscured. Such a loss is profound and irreversible if one passes away in this state. A person deprived of faith loses the ultimate compass for navigating life, leaving them vulnerable to misguidance, inner turmoil and despair in both this world and the hereafter. The flame of faith illuminates the path toward peace, purpose, and true fulfillment, whereas its absence plunges the soul into spiritual darkness. Maintaining faith through continual reflection, sincere obedience, and the correct application of divine guidance is therefore not merely advisable, it is essential. It safeguards the core of a person's spiritual existence and protects them from the gravest loss imaginable on a day when no opportunity for repentance or reformation will remain. Chapter 45 Al-Jathiyah, verse 35.
Nor will they be asked to appease.
To avoid the grave consequences of neglecting one's accountability on the Day of Judgment, one must sincerely accept and respond to the commands of Allah, the Exalted, the Lord of all creation. Chapter 45 Al-Jathiyah, verse 36.
Then to Allah belongs all praise, Lord of the heavens and Lord of the earth, Lord of the worlds.
The word praise in this verse is a noun, not a verb, which signifies permanence. All praise belongs to Allah, the Exalted, eternally, without beginning or end. Unlike a verb, which requires a doer, the noun indicates that Allah, the Exalted, is praiseworthy regardless of whether anyone praises Him. Even if the entire creation was silent, all praise would still belong to Him. This illustrates that the worship or acknowledgement of creation has no impact on the infinite and divine status of Allah, the Exalted. This is further affirmed in a hadith found in Sahih Muslim, number 6572, and in chapter 29 Al-Ankabut, verse 6.
And whoever strives only strives for the benefit of himself. Indeed, Allah is free from need of the worlds.
This demonstrates that a person's praise or worship benefits only themselves, while Allah, the Exalted, has no need for it. Recognizing this fact is essential for avoiding pride, a destructive trait so dangerous that even an atom's weight can lead a person to hell, as warned in a hadith in Sahih Muslim, number 265. The verse also reminds a person that anything praiseworthy within themselves or the rest of creation comes solely from Allah, the Exalted, and thus all praise ultimately returns to Him. Furthermore, the capacity to offer praise, knowledge, strength, or opportunity is itself a blessing granted by Allah, the Exalted. No one possesses these independently, they exist only because He allows them. Allah, the Exalted, is perfect in His attributes, acts out of pure mercy and compassion, and possesses might, wisdom, and authority that demand recognition. Humans, by contrast, act with expectation of return, whether for gratitude, reward, or protection from criticism, and therefore cannot claim inherent praiseworthiness. This establishes that Allah, the Exalted, gains nothing from His blessings, making Him the only one truly deserving of praise. The verse further highlights the essential first step toward genuine belief, showing gratitude to Allah, the Exalted, for the countless blessings He bestows. Chapter 14 Ibrahim, verse 34.
And if you should count the favor, i.e. blessings of Allah, you could not enumerate them. Indeed, mankind is generally most unjust and ungrateful.
The Holy Quran frequently links belief in Allah, the Exalted, with practical gratitude, indicating that true faith cannot exist without it. Chapter 2 Al-Baqarah, verse 152.
So remember me, I will remember you. And be grateful to me, and do not deny me.
True gratitude is expressed not merely in words, but in intention, conduct, and the use of blessings in ways that please Allah, the Exalted, according to the teachings of the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. It requires a sincere intention to please Allah, avoiding the pursuit of recognition, praise, or return from others, and using every blessing responsibly and beneficially in accordance with divine guidance. By doing so, one not only honors the blessings of Allah, the Exalted, but also ensures that they themselves receive the benefits of these blessings, cultivating faith, inner peace, and harmony in life. Gratitude, therefore, extends beyond mere fulfillment of obligatory duties, becoming a continuous practice that strengthens faith, promotes mental and physical balance, and aligns one's actions with the purpose for which Allah, the Exalted, created them. Chapter 14 Ibrahim, verse 7.
And remember when your Lord proclaimed, "If you are grateful, I will surely increase you in favor."
When a person reflects upon the creation of the heavens and the earth, and upon the countless systems that operate with flawless precision, they are inevitably led to the conclusion that a single, all-powerful being is responsible for bringing the universe into existence and sustaining it. The harmony, order, and interdependence of all things point unmistakably to one Creator. Chapter 45 Jathiyah, verse 36.
Then to Allah belongs all praise, Lord of the heavens and Lord of the earth, Lord of the worlds.
Consider, for instance, the exact distance between the sun and the earth. If the earth were even slightly closer to the sun, life would be scorched out of existence. If it were slightly farther, the planet would freeze. Likewise, the Earth's atmosphere has been fashioned with a perfect balance of gases, purity, and protective layers that allow life to flourish. These features are not random. They are deliberate signs of a Creator who designed the world with wisdom and purpose. When constructing even a modest building, one must carefully position beams, supports, and foundations to ensure the structure remains stable and safe. Such a project requires planning, calculation, and foresight. If this is true for a simple human-made structure, how could anyone reasonably claim that the heavens and the earth, far more complex and magnificent, came into existence by chance? If they were the product of accident, they would be unstable, chaotic, and unsafe. Yet they function with perfect order, demonstrating the meticulous design of Allah, the Exalted. Chapter 13 Ar-Ra'd, verse 2.
It is Allah who erected the heavens without pillars that you can see.
The sun's movement ensures that the earth receives a balanced alternation of light and darkness. The length of days and nights varies throughout the year in a way that benefits human life. If days were excessively long, people would suffer exhaustion. If nights were too lengthy, there would be insufficient time for work, learning, and other essential activities. If nights were too short, people would be deprived of the rest needed for health. These changes would also disrupt agriculture, harming both humans and animals. The perfect coordination of day and night, along with other cosmic systems, demonstrates the oneness of Allah, the Exalted. If multiple gods existed, each with different wills, the universe would fall into disorder. Chapter 21 Al-Anbiya, verse 22.
Had there been within them, i.e., the heavens and earth gods besides Allah, they both would have been ruined.
The moon, too, plays a vital role. It reflects sunlight, illuminating the night and guiding travelers across deserts and seas, journeys that remain essential for global trade even today. Its phases regulate the tides of oceans and seas, and any disruption in these tides would cause environmental devastation. The sun and moon also enable humanity to measure time with accuracy, which is indispensable for life. Their precise placement and function within the solar system clearly point to the deliberate design of a Creator. The Earth's land has likewise been formed with remarkable balance. It is firm enough to support buildings and infrastructure, yet fertile enough to grow crops. When one surveys the planet's landscapes, they find a variety of altitudes. High-altitude regions are difficult to inhabit due to thin air and challenging terrain, yet the majority of the Earth's surface lies at elevations ideal for human life. Some areas are naturally inaccessible, making it difficult to reach the resources within them, but most of the Earth is easily traversable. Moreover, essential resources, such as water, soil, and minerals, are placed where humans can access them. The more vital a resource is for survival, the more readily available it is. Such thoughtful distribution cannot be attributed to chance. It clearly reflects the work of a Creator. The water cycle is another profound sign. Water evaporates from the oceans, rises into the atmosphere, and condenses into rain. This rain is naturally acidic, yet when it falls upon mountains, the minerals within them neutralize it, making it safe for humans and animals. Any alteration in this delicate balance would bring disaster. The salt in the oceans prevents the decay, are dead sea creatures from contaminating the water. If the oceans became polluted, marine life would perish, and the resulting corruption would spread to the land. The composition of water is so finely tuned that it allows both marine life to thrive within it, and heavy ships to float upon it. A slight change in its properties would make one of these functions impossible. Even today, sea transport remains the primary method for moving goods across the world. Rainfall too is precisely measured. Too little causes drought and famine, while too much results in destructive floods. Chapter 23 Al-Mu'minin, verse 18.
And we have sent down rain from the sky in a measured amount and settled it in the earth. And indeed, we are able to take it away.
Winds are equally essential. They carry pollen that allows crops, plants, and trees to reproduce. Historically, wind was crucial for sea travel, and even now, maritime transport remains the backbone of global trade. Winds also move rain clouds to the regions that need them. Without wind, life would collapse, yet excessive wind would also bring destruction. The Earth's wind systems operate with perfect moderation, another sign of divine design. Evolution, by definition, involves random mutations, processes that are inherently imperfect. Yet when one examines the vast array of species on Earth, they find creatures perfectly suited to their environments. The camel, for example, is equipped to endure extreme heat and survive long periods without water, making it ideal for desert life. Chapter 88 Al-Ghashiyah, verse 17.
Then do they not look at the camels, how they are created?
Similarly, the goat produces milk that is completely pure despite being formed between blood and waste within its body. Any contamination would render the milk undrinkable. Chapter 16 and now, verse 66.
And indeed for you in grazing livestock is a lesson. We give you drink from what is in their bellies, between excretion and blood, pure milk palatable to drinkers.
Every species has also been assigned a lifespan that prevents ecological imbalance. Flies, for instance, live only a few weeks yet lay hundreds of eggs. If their lifespan were longer, they would overwhelm the planet. Conversely, animals with long lifespans produce fewer offspring, ensuring their populations remain controlled. Such precise regulation cannot be the product of accident, nor can random mutation account for it. Anyone who reflects sincerely on these perfectly balanced systems, spanning the heavens, the earth, the oceans, the winds, and the living creatures, cannot logically deny the existence of a single creator who governs all things with wisdom and power. Chapter 45 Al-Jathiyah, verse 36.
Then to Allah belongs all praise, Lord of the heavens and Lord of the earth, Lord of the worlds.
All creation belongs entirely to Allah, the Exalted, and exists under His absolute authority. Every person is therefore subject to His commands, whether they acknowledge it or not. Just as individuals face consequences for breaking the laws of a government in any society, disobedience to the rules established by the owner of the universe carries consequences in both this world and the hereafter. Unlike human laws, which can be avoided, altered, or ignored by leaving a country or challenging its system, the commands of Allah, the Exalted, are universal and unchangeable. There is no refuge outside His jurisdiction, and no action can nullify His decrees. The governance of the universe is like the ownership of a house. The owner sets the rules, regardless of whether others agree. In the same way, Allah, the Exalted, has determined the principles that govern life, and compliance is essential for one's own benefit and protection. Those who recognize this reality seek to obey Him, employing the blessings they have been given in ways that please Him, as outlined in the Holy Quran and the teachings of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. People have a choice. They can either strive to understand the wisdom behind divine commands, how they promote personal well-being, societal harmony, and inner peace, or they can follow their desires and reject these teachings. Yet those who ignore or oppose divine guidance must accept the inevitable consequences of their decisions. No excuses, protests, or appeals will prevent the results decreed by Allah, the Exalted, for His authority over creation is absolute and eternal. Chapter 45 Al-Jathiyah, verse 37.
And to Him belongs all grandeur within the heavens and the earth, and He is the Exalted in might, the wise.
A person must accept and act upon the guidance of Allah, the Exalted, for their own well-being, even when it conflicts with their personal desires. This can be compared to a patient who follows the advice of a doctor, taking bitter medicines and following a strict diet, understanding that such measures are essential for their health. Just as the patient benefits from the doctor's knowledge despite not fully understanding it, a person benefits from following Islamic teachings, because Allah, the Exalted, possesses perfect knowledge of what is truly best for them. Human knowledge, no matter how advanced, is limited. Scientific research, societal advice, and personal experience cannot account for every challenge a person may encounter, nor can they ensure mental and physical balance or the correct ordering of relationships and responsibilities. Limitations of foresight, biases, and incomplete understanding mean that human guidance is inherently fallible. Only Allah, the Exalted, has perfect awareness of every aspect of creation, of every moment of the past, present, and future. He has provided humanity with the Holy Quran and the teachings of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, as a comprehensive guide to live a balanced, purposeful life. The benefits of following this guidance are apparent when observing the lives of those who act according to Islamic teachings versus those who neglect them. Whereas patients may be asked to trust a doctor without fully understanding the mechanisms of their prescriptions, Allah, the Exalted, invites people to reflect on His teachings and recognize their truth through reason, observation, and reflection. He does not ask for blind obedience. He asks for sincere understanding and thoughtful adherence. Chapter 12 Yusuf, verse 108.
Say, this is my way, I invite to Allah with insight, I and those who follow me.
Furthermore, the spiritual heart, the center of peace and inner balance, is entirely under the control of Allah, the Exalted. He alone determines who receives true tranquility. Chapter 53 and Name, verse 43.
And that it is He who makes one laugh and weep.
It follows that genuine peace of mind is granted only to those who utilize the blessings they have been given in accordance with Islamic teachings. Obedience, reflection, and proper use of one's resources lead to harmony in life, clarity of mind, and balance in relationships. By aligning their actions with divine guidance, a person ensures not only the proper placement of everything and everyone in their life, but also prepares for accountability in the hereafter. This adherence brings both practical and spiritual benefits, cultivating stability, purpose, and enduring peace that worldly knowledge or efforts alone could never provide. Chapter 16 and now, verse 97.
Whoever does righteousness, whether male or female, while he is a believer, we will surely cause him to live a good life, and we will surely give them their reward in the hereafter according to the best of what they used to do.
All praise is due to Allah, Lord of the worlds, and may peace and blessings be upon His final messenger, Muhammad, his noble family and companions.